My name is Ethan, also called X. In my previous life, I was an internationally renowned hacker who, after an accident, was reborn into another person's body. With a system at my disposal, I rewrote the original owner's fate, kicked down the heavens, and embraced my first love. I thought that such a turn of events would be the turning point of my life, and that from then on no more melodrama would occur in my future. Who would have thought that after the graduation celebration, a family of strangers suddenly came to my door claiming I was the son they'd lost years ago. Now they want to take me back and restore me to my ancestral home. I realized in a daze that I actually had such a background. But what I found even more outrageous was that I could also take part in the whole real or fake young master drama. Anyone who's read this type of story knows the returning true young master never has a good ending. No matter how many aliases he has outside, no matter how strong his background and abilities, when he returns to the wealthy family, he's always tormented to death by the fake young master. And he has to rely on rebirth to fight back and win. But that kind of thing won't happen to me. After all, I've read plenty of novels and short dramas of this type in my last life. How to handle it? I have plenty of ideas. I was just preparing to discuss having my foster parents, George, Margaret, move into a new home. The old house is decent. After years living beside the same neighbors, there have been no real conflicts, and the surroundings are fine. But the old house is, after all, somewhat aged, and it could be demolished any day. Rather than wait to be evicted, it was better to move into a new home ahead of time. We didn't choose a villa, but a residential complex with a better environment. This was also so my adoptive parents wouldn't be so bored normally, and so they would have fewer awkward moments getting along with new neighbors. Just as I called my adoptive parents into the living room and everyone had sat down, the doorbell rang. Sophia was closer to the entrance. She stood up and opened the door. Looking at the people standing outside the door dressed in luxurious, aristocratic clothing, Sophia stood there bewildered, not even knowing what to say. Sophia, who's here? Why aren't you saying anything? Don't you know you should be polite? Her adoptive mother Margaret stood up and walked over. She meant to say a few words, but like Sophia, when she saw the dignified group at the door, she froze, not knowing what to say. What's going on? Who exactly has come? Why have you two been unresponsive for so long? Foster father George put down his teacup and walked over puzzled. So, seeing the scene, the foster father stood there like a stone at a loss for words. You mean to say Ethan is your biological son? The living room wasn't large enough to seat everyone. The adoptive parents and guests who didn't want to come inside stood, so they had no choice but to stand beside me, somewhat constrained but mostly bewildered. At first, when this family suddenly showed up, they stood frozen at the door, not knowing how to speak. After all, people in their circle had never interacted with those of this class before, and with the other party's noble bearing, they were at a loss how to respond. If I hadn't stepped over to break the awkwardness, they probably would have stood at the door for a long while. But only a short time after sitting down, before the teacups had even been handed out, the custom-tailored, high-end, gown-clad, noble woman sitting on the sofa suddenly began to cry. Her eyes reddened as she stared at me and said straight out, "Son, I've finally found you." As she began to speak, her husband launched into a brief explanation. They said I was their long-lost biological son. If it weren't for the news reporting that I was this year's top scorer in the Bay Harbor City College entrance exam, they probably still wouldn't have found me. Now that they'd learned about their biological son, they naturally hurried over right away. I sat in the chair, holding the teacup, my eyes scanning them with a slightly bewildered look. Nominal biological mother Olivia wore a custom-made, elegant high-end dress. Years of maintenance hid her true age, but her face looked about 30. Her beauty remained delicate and graceful. Sitting beside her, dressed in a tailored black suit with hair meticulously groomed and a cold, expressionless face, the middle-aged man exuded a faint authority of someone in a superior position. An aura born from often occupying the top seat, controlling everything and ordering others about. This was also my nominal father, Richard. A little further back, sitting and murmuring softly, were two sisters and a brother. One was my nominal third sister, Chloe, the other my nominal fourth sister, Zoe. Both have their own careers and considerable achievements, with reputations that are not bad. And the one they were protecting between them was the foster son who had enjoyed my wealth and privilege all these years, taken from an orphanage, the Lynn family's Mr. Lucas to the outside world. Lucas, a blessing from heaven, what a beautiful name. But that name didn't originally belong to him. It belonged to the original owner. From what they said, I roughly understood how things had happened. The gist is that 18 years ago, when she was about to give birth, the biological mother, Olivia, went to a high-end private hospital in Bayport to deliver, accompanied by numerous bodyguards, nannies, and servants, and supported by a professional medical team. The baby was born safely. Olivia, reassured that the baby had been born safely, fell into a deep sleep, and the infant was taken by a nurse into the neonatal incubator. Everything in the schedule proceeded in an orderly fashion. But no one expected that, just when everyone relaxed even slightly, and would never have imagined it. The baby suddenly vanished. 18 years ago, the surveillance was rather primitive, and the image quality was nowhere near as clear as it is now. The person who took the baby had clearly prepared thoroughly, not only wrapped themselves up tightly, but they could also easily stay out of the camera's range. Despite the many bodyguards on duty and the night medical staff doing rounds, not a single person noticed what had happened. When the nurse went to check on the baby, only then did she discover the baby was gone. After investigation, it was found the incident had occurred an hour earlier. For newborns, nurses specifically check on them every 1 to 2 hours. An hour is enough time for someone to get far away, and since the baby had been taken deliberately, finding the infant now was like chasing a fairy tale. When Olivia regained consciousness and learned the news, she was so devastated she nearly bled out. If not for the doctor's desperate efforts, Olivia's life would have been in danger. Although she was saved, she was left with a lingering ailment, and her mental state gradually deteriorated, devoid of any light. When they learned she had severe postpartum depression, the whole family ran about in a panic, not knowing how to resolve it. Their biological father, Richard, whose hair had nearly gone white from the ordeal, finally sighed and considered whether to adopt someone from the orphanage to give Olivia some emotional comfort. The younger members of the family did not refuse the idea, so they adopted Lucas from the orphanage. With Lucas's arrival, Olivia's condition seemed to improve. She gradually regained her glow, was no longer listless, and became energetic. She truly treated Lucas like her own son and took care of him attentively. Because of Olivia, the whole family accepted Lucas and treated him as their most treasured little brother. That atmosphere lasted for 18 years, until I appeared in a news report and they saw my face. Olivia suddenly remembered that I existed as her biological son. Somehow she had obtained a DNA test, and after confirming I was her biological son, she hurried over. And then this scene unfolded. Ethan, I am your biological father. A DNA test has confirmed a father-son relationship between us. Now that we've found you, you must come back with us. Richard studied me with his gaze. There was little excitement at a father meeting his son. Instead, he remained stoic and businesslike, treating it as official matters. As for Olivia, she was crying quietly at the side, saying nothing, just staring straight at me, as if afraid I might suddenly disappear. But third sister Chloe and fourth sister Zoe were not as excited to see their true brother as I had imagined. Instead, they looked somewhat disdainful, frowning, then continued to tend to the foster son beside them, whose face was slightly pale, nervous, and fearful of being abandoned. My foster parents were also looking at me anxiously, waiting for my answer. Sophia squeezed my hand tightly, lips pressed together. They were all waiting for my response, waiting for my answer. Having already understood the gist of the matter, and seeing the various expressions on their faces, I already had an answer in my heart. My foster parents have taken care of me very diligently all these years. If it weren't for them, I'd probably still be in the orphanage competing for resources, trying to escape that cage without freedom. Although you are my biological parents, this happened too suddenly. I wasn't prepared at all. I can't go back with you right now. I need time to adjust and to think. Ethan, what kind of attitude is that? Before Richard and Olivia could speak, Chloe, who had been sitting beside them feeling uncomfortable, suddenly snapped. She slammed her hand down on the table, causing a few drops of tea to spill from the cup. She looked at me with a disgusted frown and said coldly, "Mama's been thinking about you all these years. Because of what happened with you back then, she almost lost her life. You finally turned up, and now you hesitate? Are you even worthy of Mom? If we'd known you were this kind of person, we wouldn't have come." Third sister is right, Zoe echoed. "Although we do owe you for what happened when you were taken away back then, now that we've found you and brought you home, you should agree immediately. Not to mention the resources, status, connections, and background the Lin family can give you. After all these years, Mom worried herself sick over you. You shouldn't hesitate. Brother, if it's because of me, I can leave immediately." Lucas spoke too, his tone soft and weak, his lips trembling, his eyes damp as he looked at me. "I know everything I've enjoyed these years has been because of you, brother. I'm grateful to have had all of this, to have had Mom and Dad and my sisters. I really don't want to leave, but if you mind, I will leave at once. I absolutely won't make things difficult for you." After saying this, he tried to stand up. The two sisters on either side who were protecting him hurriedly pulled him back into his chair, then scolded me. "Ethan, Lucas is our younger brother. Even with your return, he is the one we love most. If your issue is because of Lucas, I can tell you now, give up that idea. We will not give up Lucas for you. I originally thought someone who could become the top college entrance exam scorer in Bayport City wouldn't be so petty, but it turns out you are such a person. You haven't even come home yet, and you're already thinking of driving Lucas away. Ethan, your mind is too malicious." Richard looked at me displeased, said nothing, but the meaning was clear. "You've crossed the line." Olivia stopped crying too, casting a slightly reproachful look at me before comforting Lucas. Their family was all smiles and harmony, while we stood here completely bewildered. The adoptive parents exchanged a glance, wanting to say something but not knowing what. There was nothing wrong with what I said. Such a sudden thing happened with no psychological preparation. Is it a problem to take a few days to recover? Besides, they raised me for so many years. There's no way that if my biological parents showed up, I would immediately hurry off with them. Such filial impiety. With my nature, I couldn't do such a thing. But to others it came across as a completely different attitude. Sophia couldn't help but murmur softly, "No way, is this family sick? You didn't say anything. Why are they reacting so much? Are you sure he's their biological child?" Then Sophia whispered in my ear, "Maybe you better not go back. After all, it's not like our family can't afford to support you. And anyway, you're still the top scorer of the Bayport exam. The scholarship from the university is more than enough for us to splurge and improve things." They seem like a decent family, but with that attitude, I'm afraid if you go, you'll catch it. The words were very tactful, but that was the meaning. I raised an eyebrow, but their words didn't unsettle me. First, I'm not the original person, so I don't have that kind of yearning for my birth family. Besides, I'm not lacking in love. Also, in my previous life, I watched a lot of trashy melodramas. For a plot like this, I could predict what would happen next with my eyes closed. From the moment they walked in, their expressions and postures convinced me this scene would play out exactly like that. Like being there in person. So fitting, a rare chance to act in it, and to be one of the cast, even with an important role. I felt somewhat interested. I also really wanted to see whether the real and fake young masters in the shore drama, the real young master, was truly that miserable, whether the fake young master had always been that invincible, everything going his way, the whole family doting on him. Not surprisingly, the first meeting was not very pleasant. They left in anger. Only Olivia stayed and looked at me pleadingly for a moment, hoping I would agree to go back with her immediately. Richard said, "Since you want a few days to think it over, I'll give you a few days. You better make up your mind quickly. I will never allow my own biological son to be left out. If others find out, how will they view our Lin family?" After saying that, Richard didn't even look at me and led them away. Before leaving, Lucas gave me a meaningful glance, then stared at Sophia for a long while. With Sophia's looks, Lucas had been sneaking glances at her from the first time he saw her. I noticed it, but that action wasn't illegal, just a bit rude. Trying to make an issue out of it would only get people to think I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. These small provocations are boring, so I didn't say anything. Sophia shivered, leaned against me, and couldn't help complaining. Why does he keep staring at me? It feels like I'm being looked right through. I've never received such looks before. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. Oh, didn't Dylan's look at you back then make you feel bad? Sophia rolled her eyes at me and snapped. Not at all Dylan's look back then was possessiveness, wanting to have me. I've seen that look so many times I don't react to it anymore. Besides, Dylan would still exercise some restraint, not so blatant. He's nothing like this guy, who looks like he's going to eat me. Sophia shivered inexplicably, as if she had imagined an unpleasant scene. And when it came to Dylan Clark, there wasn't much emotion attached. It was treated as a perfectly ordinary matter, without regrets or pangs of loss. After all, what Dylan Clark had given her back then was the freedom her heart craved and a different kind of scenery. Now that it's been realized with me, why would I still long for someone else? Besides, Dylan Clark lived picking through trash, occasionally got bagged and beaten senseless. The class online group had long since found out. She never liked him to begin with, and now she has a comparison. Only a fool would keep dwelling on it. She's not someone with water in her brain who would keep pining over someone unnecessary. After dinner that evening, the four of us sat in the living room. My adoptive father, George, was silent for a long moment before asking me what I thought. I thought for a bit. My biological parents have already come looking for me. If I don't go back at least once, people will inevitably gossip. Even if they never raised me for a single day, something like this has already happened, and before long it will spread and be known by people who know us. If I don't show some reaction, uncle and aunt, you two won't be able to face anyone. Blood ties work like that. Even without the kindness of raising, there is still the debt of giving birth. Now that they've been tracked down, it won't be long before the neighbors find out. My foster parents have been living here so long that they naturally have a reputation. If anyone used it to gossip, the impact would still be significant. On top of that, I also carry the title of Bayport City's top college entrance exam scorer. Learning that my biological parents came looking for me and I chose not to go back would be a hugely publicized story. Besides, Richard's words before he left were not a joke. If he decided to play some tricks, then from a moral standpoint, I would have no justification. So you're going back? Foster mother Margaret was a little reluctant, but still respected my decision. After all, they are your biological parents. We're outsiders at the end of the day. Now that they've come looking for you, if you don't go back, that wouldn't be right. If you don't feel happy living there, tell us. We won't give up on you. After all these years, I've treated you like my own son. Now you suddenly want to return and say you're willing to leave us. That's not true. As she spoke, my foster mother's eyes reddened, and she quietly wiped away a few tears. Sophia pouted and stared at me intently. The meaning was clear. She also couldn't bear to see me go. I smiled. No need to be so sad. I'm only going back for a while, not gone for good. When the time is right, I'll come back. In my heart, you are the real family. My adoptive parents were very comforted by my answer. Sophia was comforted as well. A few days passed quickly. I quickly packed a few pieces of clothing and went out. They accompanied me to the gate, reluctantly watching as I got into a luxury car. In the back seat, only Olivia had come pick me up. None of the others showed up. I had anticipated it. After all, aren't all melodramas played out this way? The adopted son caused a fuss and ran away from home, and the whole family comforted him. Who would still have time for me? Only blood kinship remained to some degree. The biological mother might come over. But after all that was done, the remaining affection was gone. Once in the back seat, Olivia kept studying me as if she wanted to see right through me. But when she noticed the cheap clothes I was wearing, she frowned slightly and instructed the driver to stop by Bayport City Global Shopping Center to buy some clothes before heading home. I didn't refuse. There's a lot of money in my account. Enough for me to have many clothes custom-made and enough to buy quite a few houses and the like. On top of that, Johnson Enterprises is already on track, and the planned major projects just need a little more time to be completed. Professional managers are handling it. The wealth that follows will be far greater than they imagine. But I didn't reveal these things immediately. Even now, they don't know who the real chairman of Johnson Enterprises is. I originally planned to proceed according to my own plan, but this incident happened. Now Olivia wants to take me shopping, so fine, let's go. I also need some private time to talk to her about a few things. Entering Bayport City Global Shopping Center, only 2 bodyguards followed, not far behind. Olivia happily linked her arm through mine and, full of enthusiasm, led me toward the brand stores. I kept trying on the clothes she thought suitable and pretty, like a doll. With each outfit change, her eyes brightened a little more, and she grew more affectionate toward me. Understandable. I hadn't suffered any hardships. There was no vicious foster mother who had abused me since childhood or anything like that. At 6 years old, the original owner was adopted. After so many years of careful care, how could the original owner's figure and looks be poor? Besides, there was a system that healed the body's wounds and concealed hidden ailments. After casting off the dowdy past, I now have the looks of a succubus. How could Olivia possibly be dissatisfied with me? Even the sales clerks in the shop look at me with hearts in their eyes. Mrs. Lin, which young master is this? He's really handsome. Olivia smiled happily, linking her arm with mine tightly and proudly introduced. This is my son, my biological child. Yes, she's my mother. I replied in agreement. When Olivia heard me call Mom, the expression on her face grew even more excited, and she became even gentler and more loving toward me. After that, she spoke even more. Whenever she ran into someone she knew, she started introducing me, whether praising my looks or boasting about my status as the top scorer in the Wangang City College entrance exam. It made her look very proud. As for the adopted son she had cherished before, Lucas, he seemed to have been forgotten by her. I checked Lucas's grades. They were okay, only a bit over 600 points. Compared to my grades, theirs are far behind. Getting into a decent university isn't hard, but if you want a better one, you'll have to pay. And I hardly need a lot of twists and turns or constant comparisons. Who's better is clear in my mind. Finally had a moment to rest. I was originally planning to return right away. I refused that suggestion. Olivia went along with me and chose a quiet shop to sit in. The purchased items were placed in the car by the bodyguard. She, as if a first-time mother, carefully asked me what drink I wanted and what I wanted to eat. I naturally didn't bother with formalities. I casually glanced at the menu and pointed to a few desserts and drinks that looked good. Olivia chose the same as mine and told the waiter to place the order. In a secluded corner, there was no one within several meters. Olivia still had a smile on her face, as if she hadn't yet come to her senses from the recent scene. Thinking especially about my calling her Mom, her smile deepened. Seeing her look at me with even more affection, I felt it was about time, so I got straight to the point. Mom, about what happened back then. I was suddenly taken away. Didn't you have any doubts at all? Her abrupt words, the painful memories, made Olivia's face go stiff. She stared at me intently. I continued. Don't you find it strange? A high-end private hospital, not a public one. The people inside and outside are arranged by insiders. You could say it's trustworthy. Besides, when you were giving birth, time was very tight. Apart from family, anyone else you would notify would at the earliest be informed after you finished delivering. But even so, someone was still able to take me from the hospital according to a plan. Familiar with the route, evading surveillance, avoiding inspections, leaving safely. So, I paused, looked straight at her, and asked with some puzzlement, I can't figure out whether this was an accident or premeditated. Can you tell me? Mom. Olivia's look of joy was gone. She went pale, her pupils flickered and contracted, and her hands couldn't help but clench into fists. Her face was full of pain, sinking into the memories of that time. But because of my words, she couldn't help but think about them. I don't know. Her voice choked. Your arrival made me happy, made me feel blessed. Because of you, I finally felt what a real home was. But when I woke up and found you were gone, my world collapsed in an instant, leaving me helpless and desperate. You were only just born. I only glanced at you once. I never even held you myself. How could you just be gone? Saying this, Olivia covered her face and wept, her body convulsing. I gently patted her back, comforting her. Disasters are unpredictable, but I'm still here. Your sky hasn't fallen. My childhood may have lacked your company, but in the days ahead, I will make up for it. Don't cry, I'm back. Wah. Olivia hugged me tightly, burying her head in my shoulder and crying loudly. It seemed like she wanted to cry out all the grievances and sadness from then and all the time since. She hugged me so tightly the waiter thought something had happened. I calmly waved my hand and let him leave. At this moment, I needed to rip open the wound in Olivia's heart and let her have a good release. Otherwise, she wouldn't take what I said seriously afterward. If I'm going to take part in a role of the real and fake young master, I have to strike to the heart. Whoever is the biggest backing and source of confidence behind him, I have to pull them out. No matter how much mischief he makes, once the backing is gone, no one will pay attention to him. He'll only be able to act like a clown for others to enjoy. And my first strike will be against my own biological mother. It must be said that her maternal family wasn't without means. Richard back then was just an impoverished student from a mountainous area. He unexpectedly met Olivia. They had a chance encounter, and in the end they happily married. Today the Lynn family's businesses mostly rose up thanks to Olivia's maternal family. Women are most emotional, especially a mother. Especially now, when she felt the most guilty, this was the most appropriate time to hand over the knife. After quite a while, Olivia's sobs finally subsided. Her wet shoulders heaved in twitches. I kept gently patting her back. Mom, actually you already have the answer in your heart. You're just afraid to be sure. After all, this kind of thing is hard to believe. Besides, there isn't much evidence yet. You can treat it as revenge from enemies or some people's resentment toward the rich. But these things require preparation and on-the-spot reactions. Yet when I was abducted, it seemed like it had been planned for a long time, rehearsed multiple times as if. Mom, can you imagine what I must have been like then? If Sister Mary from the orphanage hadn't just happened to find me in the trash can. I'm afraid. Olivia's guilt deepened. She couldn't imagine what fate awaited a newborn baby thrown into a trash bin, especially since it was winter then. A single mistake could end a fragile life. She had almost managed to forget it and dare not think about it. But now that I had brought it up bluntly, no matter how unwilling she was, she couldn't help but think about it. She lifted her head, her eyes rimmed with red as she looked at me, her expression full of pain. Impossible. He has no reason to do that. You are. What if all of this is for Lucas? What? Olivia froze. She hadn't even finished speaking, her emotions still brewing, when I ruthlessly interrupted her. She looked at me in confusion, at a loss. Take a look at these materials first. I took out my phone and transferred the files to Olivia's phone. She blankly clicked it open, then her pupils contracted as she incredulously continued to scroll down. The further she read, the darker her expression grew. I sat quietly beside her, waiting for her to go through the process of acceptance. With my maxed out hacker skills, it was still very easy for me to uncover the truth from back then. Although a long time had passed and finding clues took time. But if you search with a purpose, then the problem becomes much simpler. Isn't that how melodramas are acted? The biological son isn't cherished, but the adopted son is. There's something wrong with what's been specified. Either it's unrequited love, the son of the white moonlight, or it's his own illegitimate child. Richard had no white moonlight, and no one was interested in back then. His first love was Olivia. By relying on his tenacious, stubborn demeanor, he caught Olivia's attention and was deeply attracted to her. A young miss who had been overprotected, innocent and unaware of the world's darkness. A few simple little tricks, plus a hero saving the beauty moment. Wouldn't that easily win a woman's heart? So when things started looking up, Richard couldn't resist cheating outside. Maybe that was his true nature. He couldn't resist cheating as soon as he learned Olivia was pregnant and ended up unintentionally getting the other woman pregnant. Originally, the child shouldn't have been born, but the other woman was eloquent, skilled, and her looks were no worse than Olivia's. By some strange whim, Richard agreed to let this child be born. The time difference was only about a month. For reasons unknown later on, Richard actually dared to arrange for his biological son to be kidnapped and let the illegitimate child into the family. There must have been some of the other party's methods involved. Otherwise, Richard wouldn't have dared to do this. At the time, Olivia's natal family did have suspicions, but they had no evidence. Besides, Lucas's arrival did indeed help heal Olivia, so it gradually faded away. Now the truth is laid out in front of Olivia. Olivia's eyes were bloodshot, teeth gritted, as if she wanted to kill him then and there, desperate to go to Richard and demand an explanation. But I stopped her. "Mom, this matter is from so long ago. Although we now know from the DNA test that they are father and son, if you go to demand justice now, you won't gain much. He might even produce more reasons to refute you. If you want revenge, you'll need to endure a little longer. You can't give him the slightest chance to escape. His public businesses, his undisclosed private assets, the funds, and the women he's been hiding and protecting behind the scenes won't have their secrets exposed because of the way you look now. I can investigate those things myself, and I can also have the system help check. But it's best if I don't get involved in matters like this." A woman's desire for revenge can be very strong. Even a long-time bed companion, upon learning they've been betrayed all along, can react fiercely. She was made to unknowingly help take care of the other woman's child for so long. That kind of vengeful mindset can't be fixed with a few simple words. She needs an outlet for venting, to personally investigate the clues. The deeper she understands, the heavier that shadow will become. By then, not only will she experience the pleasure of revenge, but her guilt toward me will be stronger and her attempts at making amends will be greater. The adopted son is not only despised and rejected. The benefits I receive shouldn't be too many. A win-win situation, I just need to watch from the sidelines. With Olivia's family strength, as long as there are clues, finding the truth is only a matter of time. We arrived at the Lynn family villa. It was already dark. The servants looked at us with strange expressions as we stepped out of the car. It seemed that something extraordinary had happened earlier. Olivia had already regained her composure, terrifyingly rational. As if what had happened before never occurred, she led me through the Lynn family gate and into the luxurious villa. In the vast living room, there was no one else to be seen. Only a woman in a woman's suit wearing gold-rimmed glasses was working on a laptop. Hearing the sound, she looked up and a rather good-looking face came into view, the aloof air of a domineering female, so hitting her immediately. As expected, this should be the eldest sister, Emma, president of Lynn Wealth Group, Lynn's family. "How come you're back so late?" Olivia led me to the sofa and sat down, asking with slight puzzlement. "Did something happen?" Emma sized me up, swapping out her simple look for a more extravagant one. My succubus-level looks made her pause. She didn't seem to have expected the real young master of the Lynn family to be so outstandingly handsome. Nothing like the rustic, shrinking image she'd anticipated. Every movement she made carried an air of nobility, as if she were born with it. Especially those peach blossom eyes that even dogs would find affectionate. She looked away awkwardly and replied casually, "Lucas knew today was Ethan's return, so he threatened to run away from home." Third and fourth sisters hurried back to comfort him and persuaded him for a long time before getting Lucas to drop the idea. "They're still upstairs now." "Oh," Olivia replied lightly, glancing at me without much interest. Earlier in the car, I was teasing, telling her Lucas would make a fuss and run away from home. If it had been before, Olivia might still have sided with Lucas. After all, she raised him for so many years. It's not like there wouldn't be feelings. A biological son has blood ties, but what's more important is the adopted son who was raised by your side for many years. It's normal to show favoritism. But she knew the other party was the mistress's son and might know the truth. Olivia's attitude was naturally not very enthusiastic. Being able to give a response was already a pretty good answer. Emma was taken aback. Clearly, Olivia's reply was unexpected. When Lucas used to make a fuss, Olivia had been even more anxious than they were. Now only an O. That attitude is wrong. She looked at me puzzled. I feigned ignorance and shrugged. Emma, unable to get an answer, frowned even more deeply. We had a simple dinner, and today nothing happened. Lucas's mischief yielded no results. Except for third sister Chloe, fourth sister Zoe comforted her angrily. Olivia said a few brief words and then returned to her room. As for eldest sister Emma, she was busy with work and currently didn't have the headspace to deal with it. Lucas felt very aggrieved. He had intended to give me a warning, but it had failed. This made him very annoyed. According to his expectations, when he made a scene and ran away from home, the whole family would comfort him and stand by his side. And I was alone and helpless and had to endure severe condemnation, causing the whole family to grow increasingly disgusted with me. As a result, because I came back late, the scene couldn't continue. The delay lasted so long that, no matter how patient one could be, it was impossible to keep indulging his tantrum. Otherwise, one would have to say he had no sense of propriety. This made him very angry, but he was not discouraged by it. When one plan failed, he quickly thought of another. The next day, not long after dawn, his eldest sister Emma's angry voice rang throughout the villa. "Who is it? Who exactly stole my underwear?" Chaos reigned in the villa. It was early morning and everyone was still half asleep. Emma's voice rang out, angry and tinged with embarrassment. "I just got back yesterday, and today my underwear was stolen. It's easy for people to assume I was the one who did it. What's all the noise? Whose underwear was stolen?" Chloe rubbed her eyes, still drowsy, and walked out of the room. "Who else could it be? He just came back, and already the underwear is missing. That never happened before." Zoe was very hostile toward me, instantly zeroing in on me. "It couldn't have been brother, could it? He just returned. Why would he do something like that? Besides, what's the point of stealing underwear?" Lucas pretended to be explaining to me, but was actually digging a trap. Everyone's eyes immediately fell on me. Richard stood at the stairway, staring at me with cold eyes, his brows tightly knit. He didn't speak, but his gaze already confirmed that I was the thief who stole the underwear. Olivia wanted to speak up and defend me, but I gave her a slight shake of my head. No need to speak for me. She couldn't show any protection from me at this moment, or it would arouse suspicion. She anxiously gave a silent assent, then swept an icy glance at Lucas, who was hiding behind third sister and fourth sister and secretly smirking. Her terrifyingly rational mind instantly knew who had done it. Lucas inexplicably felt that presence, his whole body tensing. He hurriedly looked around, but had no idea who it was, puzzlingly thinking it was just a hallucination. Emma strode up to me, her eyes full of disgust, nausea, and anger, and asked in a cold tone, "Was it you? What do you think?" I asked with a faint smile. Seeing my attitude, she grew even angrier. Her voice became much louder, and she looked at me as if I were trash. "I actually had a very good impression of you, and thought you were approachable, but you did something like this on the first day, and it makes me feel sick. Return my underwear, or don't blame me for punishing you." After saying that, she broke out in goosebumps. The thought of something being done to the underwear made her shudder, her expression growing colder. Her look toward me was even more disgusted and contemptuous, as if she were staring at a paramecium. I ignored her gaze, spoke in a flat tone, and slowly extended a finger. "This is the first time, you know." "What do you mean?" Emma frowned. She didn't understand what I was saying, and my answer and the current question were completely on different wavelengths. "Are you sure it was me? Is there any evidence that it was me?" I pretended to question her, continuing to bait her. Emma frowned. She obviously had no evidence, but nothing like this had ever happened before. This happened the moment I returned. "Isn't the answer obvious?" While she was still thinking, Lucas somehow entered my room. With a somewhat ashamed expression, he took out a piece of underwear that would make anyone blush. "Lace. Lie. Brother, is this the evidence?" Seeing the familiar underwear in Lucas's palm, everyone else's gaze fell on me. Emma pointed at me in fury and shouted, "This is the evidence you were talking about. It was all found in your room. What excuse do you have left to deny it?" I glanced back at Lucas, who looked a bit smug, then turned to Emma. The woman in front of me was so angry that her full features rose and fell, very attractive, but my attention remained on her face. "Are you sure? You found the evidence. What more do you want me to do to be sure?" Emma was about to be driven crazy. It had come to this, and he was still making excuses. Did he really expect something like that to happen before it would count as evidence? Olivia saw Lucas blatantly produce the evidence and bit her lip in anger, wanted to argue for me, but seeing I remained calm, she cast an inquiring look at me. I didn't look at her because Richard had already walked over. He seemed very disappointed in me, his tone indifferent and even contemptuous, returning home on the first day and stealing something like this. I really don't know how your foster parents raised you. A short-sighted temperament is simply despicable. If you're not a respectable family, you can't show your face in public. I'm beginning to regret having you back, otherwise. He wanted to say even more hurtful things, but since Olivia was there he held back, and after saying that he left elder sister Emma to deal with it herself. As soon as Richard left, third sister and fourth sister snuggled up, looking at me with disgust, their tones mercilessly mocking. "I really wasn't mistaken about you. You're despicable. Making faces before you've even entered the house, and now you even dare steal elder sister's underwear. Are you going to steal ours next? Living with you makes me uncomfortable all over and even sick. You're garbage, the scum of society. If the paternity test weren't real, I'd suspect he's some illegitimate brat. How dare he do something like this? If Big Sister doesn't teach him a lesson, there will probably be more incidents. I'm starting to doubt that you're actually the Gaokao top scorer of Bayport City. With that kind of personality, how could you have those grades? Probably cheated them from somewhere. Don't talk about brother like that. Maybe it really wasn't him. How could it not be him? The evidence is right in front of us. Are you still going to deny it? Before he came, nothing like this ever happened in this family. It's only the first day, and he already dares to steal this. Will he be stealing jewelry tomorrow? The more they talked, the more worked up they became, as if it really would happen. Emma also felt she ought to teach me a lesson, best to drive me out. At that moment, I held up my second finger and said calmly, "This is the second time." She froze, clearly not understanding where I got the confidence to say that at this point. Olivia couldn't stand it and stopped the chaotic scene. With her stepping in, no matter how angry they were, everyone could only keep it to themselves. Before leaving, Emma stared at me for quite a while. It seemed this matter couldn't be let go. In the room, I was locked inside, with someone posted at the door to guard me. Because of this incident, everyone had lost trust in me. To prevent me from doing anything else, they assigned bodyguards to watch me. Lucas pushed the door open, then shut it again, and looked at me with a feigned concern. "Brother, are you all right? I believe you didn't do this. It must have been someone else. It was my oversight just now. As soon as I find it, I'll show everyone. Otherwise, brother wouldn't have been misunderstood." Misunderstood? What misunderstanding? I smirked a little as I examined Lucas, who was putting on an act, and sat in the chair watching him with mild amusement. Well, Lucas wanted to keep acting, but I interrupted him outright. "I know it was you who did it." With that sentence, Lucas froze, staring at me in disbelief. But he still quickly found an excuse and said wrongly, "Brother, why are you falsely accusing me? Why would I do such a thing? Although I didn't notice that I made you look guilty, it was unintentional. Don't pretend." I waved my hand. "I've known what was on your mind for a long time. You were the one who put that underwear there. When you came in last night, I already knew. I just didn't stop you." I woke up the moment Lucas sneaked in the middle of the night yesterday. After thinking about it, I pretty much knew what was going on. By the standards of melodrama, if the fake young master frames someone once, there's bound to be another framing. Especially if the first attempt failed, then the second attempt is sure to come quickly. I just quietly watched him hide the underwear in a corner, then sneak out of my room again. Although I don't know whose it is, I'm certain tomorrow will be absolutely spectacular. You, seeing that I had said it so plainly, Lucas stopped pretending. He glared at me fiercely and hissed. So what if I did it? Who would believe you? I only did a little tampering. You wouldn't be able to move an inch in this house. How can you compete with me? Of course, who's to blame but you for coming back? If you hadn't come back, none of this would have happened. You escaped yesterday. Can you escape today? As long as you're in this house, things like this will keep happening. As long as I'm around, don't expect your days to be easy. Aren't you at all curious why I don't expose you or even destroy the evidence? I smiled, tilted my head slightly, and cut off his impassioned speech. Lucas froze again, at a loss for words. I stood up, turned to the floor-to-ceiling window, and said slowly, "Your methods are too clumsy. They fail to pique my interest." To make things more entertaining, I chose to ignore them. And so we see today's scene, the outcome you predicted. Undoubtedly, everyone hates me even more now. Now, when I go out, I have bodyguards watching me, afraid I'll do something extreme again. But with you in the picture, whether there are bodyguards or not, whatever happens afterward will fall on me. They won't trust me, although I could strike back. I could expose you, or I could find evidence against you myself, but that would be too boring. I turned around and looked at Lucas calmly, my tone gentle. I'm really curious to see what it would look like if you, who place yourself on a high and sacred pedestal, eventually fall into the abyss. A mere frame-up and false accusation isn't nearly that interesting. Lucas was stunned by my words. The way he looked at me was like looking at a madman. Aren't you sick? Who doesn't brag like that? If you really have that kind of ability, then try it. Let's see in the end who believes me and who believes you. I've lived in this family longer than you have. I'm the one they like the most. What right do you have to fight me? If you got the guts, then try. Then let's wait and see. My calm demeanor continued to infuriate Lucas. He had originally wanted to get some validation from me, to enjoy watching me unjustly humiliated and then mock me afterward. But the unexpected result was that I ended up filled with anger. He glared at me furiously, then hurriedly left. Clearly he wanted to cause trouble again and was intent on beating me to death. I ignored it, sat back in his chair, picked up his phone, and casually checked the news and trending searches. Very quickly, 2 trending topics rocketed to first and second place. Breaking. Lynn Wealth Group suspected of tax evasion. Relevant authorities have already launched an investigation. The group's president urgently holds a press conference. Breaking. Doubts raised about the competence of Lynn Wealth Group's current president. Negotiated projects have had cooperation halted, citing poor execution ability. There were a lot of comments under the 2 trending posts, most discussing Lynn Wealth Group, and with the current president being a cool, stunningly beautiful woman, there was even more to talk about. After all, she wasn't the group's true president, only acting in the role temporarily. The group was still evaluating Emma and keeping her under observation. Now, after such a short time, the group had erupted in a scandalous incident. How could this not be her dereliction of duty? Moreover, the suspended project was still a collaboration with Johnson Enterprises, and now it has been halted because of doubts, making it hard not to suspect whether this beautiful CEO actually has the ability to handle management decisions. Otherwise, why would a leading company in Bayport do this, preferring to pay breach of contract damages rather than proceed? For a time, Lynn Wealth Group's stock plummeted. Partners scrambled to call and ask what was going on. There were one meeting after another inside the company, keeping everyone so busy they barely had time to land. At dawn, Emma came back utterly exhausted. Thinking of yesterday's sudden incident, the investigating authorities, and the shareholders' questions left her mentally and physically drained, looking haggard all over. Everything had clearly been fine the day before. Everything had been going according to plan. However, yesterday her underwear was stolen, and it happened shortly after she arrived at the company. Landline calls, mobile phones, the secretary. One piece of bad news after another came through. She had long suspected there were problems within the company, but she had been in charge for too short a time to pinpoint where the issues were. Who would have thought something like tax evasion would be exposed? Before she could react, those departments from the tax bureau arrived, making the company a mess and completely unable to work. She hadn't yet figured out how to deal with those departments when Johnson Enterprises suddenly said they were suspending the project. The reason was that she wasn't capable, questioning the project's feasibility. They didn't give her any chance to explain. The other side just hung up the phone, and then the contract breach people showed up. As the project was suspended, the partners all started calling to ask what was going on. The shareholders were even more insistent, calling her to attend meetings and demanding to know what was happening. One thing after another, it was all too much. It felt as if someone had arranged it. Emma walked into the living room in a daze, her mind fuzzy, unable to figure out who was targeting them. Their competitors didn't have that kind of power either. Otherwise, the group would have gone bankrupt long ago. She couldn't make sense of it and walked slowly toward the sofa. But out of the corner of her eye, she noticed someone standing at the stairwell, though she hadn't seen them arrive. It was Ethan. He leisurely held a glass of milk, leaning against the wall, watching with keen interest. In that posture, Emma immediately felt disgusted and wanted to scold him. But Ethan slowly extended 2 fingers and waved them at her. The oddly familiar gesture left Emma dazed. Yesterday, Ethan did the same, waving his fingers at her twice. She didn't understand what that meant. Vaguely, it seemed to carry some other implication. In an instant, a flash of insight struck Emma's mind. As if she had thought of something, she asked uncertainly, "Did you do this? How is that possible? Where could he have gotten such ability? Was it just a coincidence?" I calculated the timing and estimated when Emma would return. Holding a cup of milk, I leaned against the edge of the staircase wall and waited. After a short while, a weary Emma walked through the front door and stepped into the living room. At first, she didn't notice me. She was clearly lost in thought. I knew what she was thinking, so I stayed quiet and didn't interrupt. But I was standing there so obviously that Emma noticed me very quickly. Her expression instantly turned to disgust and disdain, on the verge of ordering me off. I just waggled 2 fingers and kept teasing her silently. But Emma isn't stupid. She seemed to have guessed the truth, though her tone was very unsure. "Did you do this?" I said nothing, but smiled and walked toward the room. Emma couldn't get an answer from me, and, unable to restrain her tone, asked again, "Is it you or not?" I still didn't respond, but she hurriedly chased after me in her high heels. Inside the room, the bodyguards outside the door had temporarily left. Emma stood, looking down at me from above. I sat in the chair, my fingertips lightly tracing the cup from which I had taken a sip of milk. Neither of us spoke. The atmosphere was heavy and oppressive. But Emma's breathing undoubtedly grew much heavier, her full contours rising and falling. Her eyes were red, her lips a little chapped. Clearly she hadn't slept all night. Looking at me so calm, her face haggard, her agitation only deepened. Regardless of who spoke first or who would lose face, she demanded, "Before you returned, everything was fine. But after you came back, especially after what happened yesterday, the company suddenly ran into trouble. I don't believe you have the ability to cause something like that. After all, you're only 18 now, still a student preparing for university. What right do you have to control a group valued at $3 billion US? But you were so strange. Your movements, your words, and the way you just were, all of it made me suspicious, doubtful. It made me unable to understand whether all of this was orchestrated by you." I paused, studying her rather attractive face. I have to admit, Emma really was quite pretty. A frosty demeanor, and he's also a CEO. He gives off an abstinent, restrained vibe. Especially now, contrasted with yesterday's cool, controlling demeanor, there's an inexplicable pleasure. It's like a heavenly goddess dragged down to the mortal world, tainted by the dust of the world. Emma felt uneasy under my stare, especially with those eyes that could make even dogs look affectionate, and her succubus-level looks. Combined with her calm demeanor, her discomfort intensified. If yesterday's incident hadn't happened, Emma would have to admit she quite liked me this way. She was her preferred type, but with yesterday's stain and the current doubts. No matter how much it pleased her before, she had no desire to think about any of that now. Instead, my gaze inexplicably sent a shiver down her spine. She felt sick all over like prey. Unable to stand being stared at, Emma spoke again. Answer me. Is it? Yes. I didn't deny it. I admitted it outright. What? Emma seemed not to have heard clearly, or perhaps she couldn't believe it. I thought for a moment, then answered, You're actually a woman with great ambition, but you never dare to expose that ambition openly, for fear it would affect your plans. And my first sentence, Emma immediately looked unwell. Her face gradually went pale. Clearly, she couldn't comprehend how I could know what was in her heart. You have harbored such ambition since childhood, and especially after joining the Lin family. That desire inside you gradually grew. So over the years, you've been diligently studying and seriously thinking, laying the groundwork for your plan. After all, you're not the Lin family's biological daughter, but adopted, and so are I and the nominal second, third, fourth, and fifth sisters. Your existence is mainly for the sake of the unborn me. A fortune teller once said my birth would not be smooth, that it would be full of hardships, and that I would need nominal brothers and sisters above my head to support me in order to get through safely. So, before they, Olivia, Richard, were even married, you five had already been chosen and became what I call my sisters. There should have been an eldest brother or something, but in the end it was decided that having 5 sisters would be better. After all, your existence is for me, and if the subsequent marriages were to be joined together, wouldn't that be double the joy? You unexpectedly learned this information and, unwilling to abase yourself before others, your ambition grew even larger because of it. So compared to the other sisters, you gave more and worked harder to make your own aura more dazzling. You even schemed to use others' papers to enhance your own radiance. Your ultimate goal was to rise above the entire Lin family and successfully take everything from them. Your plan is perfect. Very few people know about it. Not even your closest family members know you harbor such ambition. After I learned your information, I thought of setting a trap for you, but someone ended up completing it for me. As for who it was, everyone knows. I stopped speaking further. After all, that's roughly the point. The 5 Lin sisters were not real members of the Lin family. They were adopted. Olivia isn't a pig. How could she possibly give birth to so many and still keep herself in such good shape? It was all because, before marrying Richard, a fortune teller told them that the original person's birth would not be peaceful and would involve twists and turns. The best solution was to find some nominal siblings to take the disasters for him, so he could grow up safely. Emma learned this when she was a child. Finding out that their role was to serve as disaster bearers and also as child brides, she immediately broke down. But though she was young, her mind was very mature. After all, she had spent time in an orphanage. One's mentality always matures faster than peers. Otherwise, how could one compete for the scarce resources there? After learning the news, she was quiet for several days, constantly thinking about how to save herself. The more she thought, the clearer it became. She had to earnestly prove her worth and build more prestige so that Richard and the others would notice her, giving her value and a voice. There was no doubt she had done it. After so many years, she had finally secured the position of group president, although it was only interim. But give her time, and she could truly take complete control. The 4 unaware younger sisters remained immersed in their fabricated world, dreaming sweet dreams and pursuing their own ambitions. Completely oblivious, no matter how much they possessed now, in the end it would belong to someone else. Emma saw it all, but she never said a word. This showed she was a selfish, self-centered, independent person. As for why I knew all this, of course it came from the system. After all, these things are hard to fully understand relying solely on hacking skills. Depending on partial clues, there can be different truths. Emma was so shocked by my words that she collapsed to the ground. She couldn't believe how I could know these things. All these years, she had been hiding them in her heart, keeping up appearances perfectly. But I was like a roundworm inside her belly, knowing everything. The look she gave me was filled with fear and despair, even more fearful of my strength. I didn't pay her any mind and instead continued. Actually, I'm not the one who stole your underwear. After all, who would do something so shameful on the very first day and thereby lose their status as heir? It wasn't me, but no matter what I say, I'm still the Lin family's only true young master, the sole legitimate son, and the future heir to Lin Wealth Group. But it's rare to get an opportunity like this. If you go along with it and let the other side try to drive me out in one blow, even if it's unlikely they'll succeed immediately. They've at least succeeded halfway by making everyone lose trust in me. As long as it happens a few more times, the entire Lin family will belong to you, and no one will be able to stop your advance. Saying that, I rose from the chair, walked up to Emma, half-crouched, reached out, and pinched her chin, voice tinged with amusement. You don't need to arrange any plans, just cooperate in ignorance, and you could drive me away. Think about it. When things are finally exposed, no one will suspect you, especially since you may already know Richard doesn't like me, and only Mom still feels familial toward me. With thoughts like yours, even without someone else plotting, you'd probably have planned this long ago, right? Emma stared at me intently, trembling all over, lips pressed together. My words were undoubtedly like peeling off her clothes, leaving her completely exposed. She wanted to find a reason to refute me, to change the subject, but looking into my calm eyes, she was suddenly at a loss for how to reply. All she knew was that I was terrifying, that I filled her with fear as if she were falling into an abyss. But in the end, she still opened her throat hoarsely, with a hint of bewilderment. If you knew it would be like this, then why didn't you stop it? Obviously something like this wouldn't happen, and he wouldn't find any evidence, but it still happened. Why? Why? I feigned thinking for a moment, then smiled and said, because I was waiting for you. Me? Emma's pupils contracted in shock, her face drained of color, her mind racing but unable to make sense of it. I knew Lucas wanted to get rid of me, but I didn't stop it. I just wanted to see who would jump out next, and it turned out to be you. Knowing it was you made me happy. After all, in my plan, the next cut was meant for you. The next cut? What do you mean? Emma was bewildered. Do you really like Lucas? Maybe you do, but more so you don't see him as a threat. You were all adopted, all starting from the same place. When it comes to fighting over the family fortune in the future, who's going to get more is already guessed in your minds. Even if Lucas seems pampered now, when that time comes, it will undoubtedly be you sisters who have already built careers. He's like a pet you tease, given some attention now and then, appearing to be the favorite, but actually being raised like a useless thing, so he won't be qualified to interfere in your struggle in the end. I've already pulled his biggest trump card, the one you all fear most, but the Lin family still has confidence in him. For now, you're the top priority. Emma understood, but still didn't believe what methods I had used. After all, Olivia's care for Lucas wasn't fake. They had seen it with their own eyes. Normally when Lucas got even a little hurt, Olivia would worry incessantly. Even when it came to her own biological son, Olivia's first choice was still Lucas. Blood ties mean little in a wealthy family. Though they represent the continuation of a lineage, they don't compare to someone raised by your side for over a decade. There was undoubtedly no chance of winning. After all, Lucas alone was sufficient to carry on the Lin family. As long as it isn't said that he is fake, then he is real. However, Olivia giving up on Lucas, that is impossible. I felt the smoothness to the touch, admiring that face that was puzzled and edged with fear. Aren't you puzzled why I can do it so easily? I should have been the one abandoned, but I'm the one who succeeded. I don't understand. Emma said she would never abandon him. In her heart, Lucas is more important than you. That was before. I smiled. Never mind, I'll show you something. After you see it, you'll understand. I was too lazy to keep teasing her. I transferred the file to her phone. Emma first looked at me, then at the file that had been transferred to her phone. She pressed her lips together for a moment, then opened it. After a few glances, she was no longer calm, staring intently at the information on the document. How is that possible? He actually is Richard's illegitimate son. A few days after this matter, Emma fell into a slight trance. Although the company's matter had been resolved and there were no further repercussions. But at work, whenever she thought of the materials I'd sent her, she would fall into a brief daze. She nearly delayed the work schedule. She hadn't expected that after doing so much in hiding for so many years, she had believed she could reap the rewards. Even with me as the true young master, it would only take a little time. She would be able to obtain everything of the Lynn family. But unexpectedly, Lucas turned out to be Richard's illegitimate son. He was the Lynn family's real young master. No wonder Olivia would give up on Lucas. Who wouldn't, knowing that the person who'd slept by their side for years had been betraying them the whole time, and even expected them to raise the mistress's child without letting go. It also explained why Olivia had been so calm when she learned Lucas was running away from home. Turns out she already knew, and all of this manipulation came from me. What exactly is the confidence I have? What kind of power? How did it happen? Emma had been unable to figure it out these past few days. When she saw me, her gaze would flinch. She couldn't help but feel fear, dread, afraid I would say something she didn't want to hear. Richard had also noticed a problem, especially after the big incident at the company a few days ago. He already had his grievances with her. And now this behavior made Richard even more dissatisfied. Do you have something on your mind? In the study, Richard sat in the office chair, his face stern as he stared at Emma. Emma shook her head. No, if not, then why'd you been off your game these past few days? The company had such a huge blunder a few days ago. If I hadn't protected you, do you think you could still be the president? My methods did indeed cause Lynn Wealth Group to hemorrhage. They lost a significant amount of dollars. If Richard hadn't consulted with the shareholders and everyone contributed money to cover it, Lynn Wealth Group probably couldn't have resumed operations so quickly. Emma's actions naturally drew the shareholders' dissatisfaction, but Richard vouched for her, said he'd give her one more chance. If something like this happened again, he would discuss it with her in advance and make arrangements. With Richard involved, no matter how dissatisfied the shareholders were, they could only agree. And Emma knew it was me who did it, but she didn't dare to say so. Can only take the blame. Now that Richard brought it up again, Emma was undoubtedly nervous. Richard seemed not to notice and went on, "You're not that young anymore. It's time to fall in love. If you can't handle the group's affairs, I'll arrange a marriage for you. Lucas is about ready to join the company and gain experience. If you mess up again, we'll have Lucas take your place. Of course, I don't want to do this either. After all, I'm aware of your abilities, but if this continues, I have no choice. Unless you commit to the group's affairs, or properly get close to Lucas, I don't know what will happen next." After leaving the study, Emma was dazed and confused. She hadn't expected Richard to give up on her so quickly. Although it wasn't stated explicitly, that was the implication. If Richard really were to intervene, with her current capabilities, she simply couldn't stop him. No, it can't be like this. If that's true, then what have I been doing all these years? Emma clenched her fists. She couldn't give up the position of group president, nor would she enter into a marriage alliance. Besides, she knew what her existence was for. Richard wouldn't possibly marry her off for an alliance. But if it could bring greater value, who knows, it might really be possible. Most importantly, she still had 4 younger sisters under her. In the deep of night, I was just about to sleep. The bedroom door was opened. Before I could look up, the door was quickly shut, and a graceful figure carrying a scent hurried toward me. I recognized who it was, and before I could speak, she knelt at the foot of the bed, looking at me helplessly, and said, "I want you to help me." "You mean Richard is going to give you up?" After learning the gist of what happened, I sat cross-legged on the bed and watched Emma still with her head down, kneeling on the floor. Emma numbingly nodded, apparently admitting it. I touched my chin and laughed. "Looks like he started to be dissatisfied with you and wants to pave the way for his son early." Emma was startled, abruptly raising her head and asking urgently, "Did you know all along?" "MHM." I nodded. "Of course I knew. From the moment your group started suffering losses, I knew this link would appear." Emma glared at me venomously, clearly having grasped the general outline of my plan. "Don't look at me like that. Whether I existed or not, he would still give you up." I explained, No matter how well you do, everything in the future belongs to Lucas. Even I cannot stop his resolve. Otherwise, why, during all the time I was back, did he never consider letting me work at our family company? And why does it only seem like you've taken over the position of group president, but it's actually temporary? Emma's face went pale. I continued, because in his mind it had already been arranged. 18 years ago, after I was deliberately kidnapped, he had already thought this through. So, while it seems your plan succeeded, isn't it also his success? The better you make the group, the easier it will be for Lucas to take over later. In the end, you're nothing but his pawn, not the player you think you are. In this family, no one can be as important in his heart as Lucas. The fruits you speak of are nothing but someone else's wedding dress. Having said that, how could Emma not understand? She considered herself a hunter, a person who moves the pieces on the chessboard. It turned out she herself was the prey, a pawn of the one playing the game. All the plans she believed she had perfectly hidden were actually just setups for someone else. No wonder Richard refused to fully give her the position of group president. At first she thought it was due to insufficient ability, that she needed evaluation and had to produce results. It turned out to be all for Lucas. Emma silently burst into tears, then immediately laughed out loud. Ha ha, ha, so that's it. So that's how it is. I didn't expect everything belonged to him. Then, what was my sacrifice worth? What were my ambitions? What can I still get? You, I laughed. You won't get anything. Not even yourself. You belong to Lucas. Emma stared at me blankly. Still haven't figured out what Richard meant? The marriage alliance he mentioned might be real. If there's a big benefit in front of him, he'll send you away. Simply because you're the Lin family's best. With your value, you'll surely bring a lot of profit. But nobody chose you as the one to be exchanged for Lee, so your final fate will belong to Lucas. Don't forget, he's also the true young master of the Lin family. According to the fortune-telling back then, the 5 of you were all child brides, closely related by marriage, which might bring Lucas better luck. As for how to choose, it's possible Richard already has an answer in his heart, but the result is still that you will be abandoned. You're merely useful for now. My cold, merciless words laced with truth made Emma shiver all over, terrified and desperate. If things are truly as I said, then her fate will not change. Still the same as before, carried out in that way. Everything done was merely a splash in the course of things. She didn't like Lucas and never had. After so many years together, how could she not know what kind of person Lucas is? Precisely because she understood she disliked it. Even if it was just superficial, she avoided contact as much as possible. She absolutely would not have Lucas expend even a little extra effort. But now, her fate still remained unchanged. How could she not feel despair? Instinctively, Emma's gaze fell on me. The pride of old was gone, leaving only humiliation and helplessness. I leaned close to her, pinching her chin and slightly raising her gaze so she looked into my eyes. With a grin I said, "Do you want me to help you?" She nodded lightly. "What can you offer in return?" She fell into confusion. "You're not bad." She instantly came to her senses and looked at me in panic. "I'm your sister." But I wasn't registered under the Lin family household. She was blank for a moment, then stared at me. "It's been so long since I came back. My household registration is still with my adoptive parents. It hasn't been transferred to the Lin family. They never mentioned it, and I never brought it up either. It seems everyone has forgotten. Whether that's really the case doesn't matter. You don't need to know the details, only that right now, I am your greatest support." Emma fell silent. I moved closer again, almost at zero distance. I stared into those anxious eyes and spoke softly. "You were always mine. What burden do you have to worry about? I wasn't registered under the Lin family, so why worry about their rumors? You want the position of group president? I'll give it to you. You want to realize your ambitions? I'll give them to you. I can change your fate. I have that ability. I won't interfere in everything you do, yet I can become your greatest support. Make your choice. Think it over. Do you want to continue the original ending or embrace an unknown future? It all depends on your decision." Emma stared at me intently, seeing the confidence spilling from my eyes and the strength behind it. Those domineering words felt even more powerful than when facing Richard. Can I give it? Maybe it's possible? Choosing me? Wasn't that decided long ago? Emma, who had come to terms with it, nodded at me, a different emotion welling up in her eyes. It was resignation, or reliance. But gradually, it became the certainty that follows a decision. Okay, I didn't hold back either and said straight out, unarmed, George, I've got good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? I put down my paintbrush and looked at my friend Frank. He stood at the studio door with a mysterious air, his face a mix of nervousness and excitement. Let's start with the bad news. After all, I've gotten used to it these past 3 years. Your painting, Eternity, just sold for a sky-high price. Over $6 million. I frowned. How is that bad news? Frank chuckled. Because it's actually part of the good news. The bad news is, buddy, you might need to see a psychiatrist. What do you mean? A woman who looks exactly like Mary showed up at your art exhibition. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost. The paintbrush slipped from my hand and fell to the floor, splattering paint across the unfinished canvas. Mary, my late wife, died 3 years ago after accidentally falling off a cliff. I watched with my own eyes as her body was pulled from the water. In that moment, my world completely collapsed. Stop joking around, Frank. Why would I lie to you? She even left this. Frank handed me a note, with an address and a time written on it. My hand trembled slightly. The handwriting was exactly the same as Mary's. That night, I waited until midnight at the designated cafe. Just as I was about to leave, a familiar figure appeared at the door. Mary? No, it couldn't be her. But every gesture of that woman, from the tips of her hair to her fingertips, was a shadow of Mary. George, it's been a long time. She sat across from me, and the familiar voice nearly made my heart stop. Who are you? I struggled to remain calm. I'm Mary, your wife. She smiled and reached out her hand. There was a scar on her palm, the mark Mary got when she accidentally cut herself on glass at 15. Impossible. Mary is already dead. She laughed softly. That was just an accident. I fell off the cliff and was saved by a reclusive old doctor. I lost my memory from the injuries and only recently remembered everything. As she spoke, tears began to fall with an expression I knew all too well, the look Mary wore whenever she felt wronged. I know it's hard to believe, but I really am Mary. I couldn't believe my eyes. The shade of lipstick Mary loved most, the faint little mole beneath her left ear, the unconscious habit of rubbing her ring while speaking. Everything was so familiar. Are you really Mary? She nodded and took a small box out of her bag. This is the proof. Inside the box was the first piece of jewelry Mary ever designed. A sapphire ring, the only one of its kind, never mass-produced. I brought it with me that day because I wanted to surprise you. I suddenly stood up and pulled her into my arms. 3 years of longing surged over me like a tide. I held her tightly, afraid that if I let go, she would disappear again. On the way home, she told me about her experiences over the past 3 years. She was rescued by an old doctor in the mountains, lost her memory due to a severe head injury, and lived in a remote mountain village for more than 2 years. It wasn't until she happened to see a poster for my art exhibition that her memory gradually returned. The next day, I took her to see Frank. Oh my God, it really is you, Mary. Frank stared in astonishment, eyes wide. Frank, it's been a long time. She greeted him with a smile, exactly as I remembered. Frank pulled me aside and whispered, Man, this is unbelievable, but I really believe it's her. Who else but Mary could call me by my childhood nickname so accurately? That was something only the two of you knew. A week later, Mary officially returned. We held a small welcome party for her. Her mother was so overwhelmed that she fainted, and when she woke up, she clung to her daughter and refused to let go. But that night, I noticed the first sign that something was off. Mary never ate mangoes because she was severely allergic. Yet the returned Mary absent-mindedly tasted a mango dessert and was perfectly fine. Aren't you allergic to mangoes? I asked. She paused for a moment, then quickly laughed and said, Oh, that old Chinese doctor cured my allergy. He's really amazing. I nodded, but in my heart, I marked the first question mark. Is this really my wife? A month passed quickly, and Mary blended perfectly into our lives. She knew the location of every item in the house, remembered our shared memories, and could even accurately name friends we hadn't contacted in years. But those subtle feelings of discord kept growing. For example, the real Mary liked to listen to classical music, especially Debussy, while designing jewelry. But she would always unconsciously hum along to pop songs. Mary always habitually used her left hand to hold chopsticks, even though she knew it was wrong. She just couldn't change. But she was a standard right-handed user. The most obvious difference appeared that night when I accidentally caught her smoking in the bedroom. The real Mary hated the smell of smoke. Even when I came home from social events with a faint scent of cigarettes, she would frown. "When did you start smoking?" I stood at the doorway, my voice soft. She was clearly startled, hastily snuffing out the cigarette. This is a herbal cigarette for treating insomnia, prescribed by an old Chinese doctor." I nodded, not pressing further, but the doubts in my heart only grew deeper. The next day, I went to find Frank. "Help me check if, in the past 3 years, plastic surgery technology has advanced enough to achieve this level." Frank's eyes widened. "You mean, she's not Mary?" "I'm not sure, but there are always some things that don't add up." 2 days later, Frank brought news. High-end plastic surgery can make faces look similar, but it can't replicate the exact placement of scars or moles. And there's a limit to how well someone can imitate a voice. What if it was a twin? Frank shook his head. "Mary is an only child. We all know that." I decided not to show my feelings for now and to keep observing. A week later, Mary's mother came to my house with astonishing news. "George, Mary is going to have a baby," my mother-in-law told me excitedly. I stood there stunned. Before we got married, Mary had been diagnosed with uterine hypoplasia. The doctor had made it clear she could never get pregnant. This was our shared secret. Not even my mother-in-law knew. How do you know that?" I managed to ask. "Mary told me this morning. She said she already had a checkup. It's been 2 months." My mother-in-law happily grabbed my hand. "It's a blessing from above. Mary survived death, and now she can bring us new life." My heart sank to the bottom. This absolutely could not be Mary. That night, I dug out the hospital's diagnosis certificate in my study, which clearly stated the condition of Mary's uterus. But when I wanted to talk to Mary about it, I found her in the bedroom, excitedly discussing the decoration of the nursery with my mother-in-law. "Mary, could you come here for a moment?" I called her calmly. She followed me into the study, still wearing a blissful smile on her face. "Did you forget about this?" I handed her the diagnosis certificate. She took it and glanced at it, her face instantly turning pale. "George, I can explain." "Explain what?" "Explain that you're not Mary at all." Mother-in-law heard the commotion and walked in. "What's going on with you two?" "Mom, take a look at this." I handed her the proof. My mother-in-law read it, then looked at Mary in astonishment. "What's going on?" "Mary, you can't have children." "Of course she can," I sneered, "because she's not Mary at all." My mother-in-law's face changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "I can explain." She hurriedly grabbed my mother-in-law's hand. "That old Chinese doctor not only saved my life, but also cured my uterine problem. It's a miracle, truly." My mother-in-law looked at me, then at her, hesitating. "George, you're being too paranoid." My mother-in-law finally took her daughter's side. "Mary has come back with great difficulty. You should cherish her, not doubt her." "Yes, George, I know this is hard to accept, but miracles do happen." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Haven't we always wanted a child? Now we can finally have our own baby." I looked at her face, identical to Mary's, yet I became more certain in my heart. This woman was not my wife. "All right, I believe you." I smiled, deciding to go along with their story for now. Let's wait together for this miracle to happen. That night, I secretly contacted a private detective. My mother-in-law gladly accepted her daughter's explanation, even suggesting she move in with us to take care of Mary during her pregnancy. Outwardly, I agreed, but inside I grew even more wary. This was no coincidence. There had to be some kind of plot. "Mom, haven't you always lived in Haicheng? Won't it be hard to get used to living here?" I probed cautiously. "For my grandson, I'm willing to endure any inconvenience," my mother-in-law said firmly. I noticed a fleeting unnatural expression on Mary's face. Could the truth be connected to my mother-in-law? On the 3rd day after my mother-in-law moved in, I discovered more suspicious details. For example, the real Mary never drank coffee, but she and my mother-in-law often enjoyed it together. Also, Mary's favorite movie was Roman Holiday, but she claimed to prefer Titanic. The strangest thing is, Mary used to despise her cousin Tom when she was alive, but now he visits frequently and chats and laughs with Mary as if they're old friends. I told Frank about these discoveries. "Buddy, things are getting more and more suspicious," Frank frowned. "Are you sure you want to keep going like this? Why not just expose her directly? It's not the right time yet. I want to find out what they're really after." The private detective's investigation also made progress. The so-called old Chinese doctor who had saved Mary did not exist at all, and Mary's whereabouts over the past 3 years were completely untraceable. More importantly, the private detective uncovered a shocking fact during the investigation. Mary's cousin Tom was deeply in debt from gambling, and the painting Eternity under my name, worth over $6 million, was his only hope for quick cash. "They're after your painting," the private detective asserted, "and this fake Mary is likely a professional identity fraudster, hard to win your trust." I took a deep breath and decided to take the initiative. That afternoon, I pretended to go out, but secretly returned home and hid in the study. Sure enough, Mary and her cousin Tom were whispering to each other in the living room. "It's taking too long," Tom said irritably. "How much longer until he sells the painting?" "Don't worry," she soothed him. "I'm already pregnant, and now he completely believes I'm Mary. In a little while, I'll say I want to move to a better neighborhood for the sake of the baby, and then we'll naturally need to sell the painting to raise money." "You're really pregnant?" "That wasn't part of the plan. It was an accident, but it works to our advantage. George wants a child so badly." "Does Annie know the truth?" "She only knows we're trying to scam money, not the specific plan. But she hates George, thinks he caused her daughter's death, so she's more than happy to help." I clenched my fists. So my mother-in-law had always believed that Mary's accident was somehow my fault. In fact, we did argue over something trivial that day, and Mary stormed out in anger. I didn't try to stop her. But I never imagined it would be the last time I'd see her. "You don't actually have feelings for George, do you?" Tom suddenly asked. She was silent for a moment. "It's just part of the job. Besides, I owe you, and I won't go back on my word." "Good then. Don't forget how we're splitting the money once we get it." Their conversation confirmed my suspicions. This was all an elaborate scheme, with my eternity as the target. In the days that followed, I pretended everything was normal while secretly making preparations. I contacted the police, arranged for evidence-gathering equipment, and found the last piece Mary had left before she died, a silver necklace that had never been made public, engraved with an anniversary date only the two of us knew. 2 weeks later, my art exhibition was held as scheduled. As planned, Mary brought up the idea of moving, hinting that I could sell Eternity. I pretended to agree and said I would auction the painting on the last day of the exhibition. "This is a surprise I prepared for you," I said on the eve of the exhibition, taking out a delicate box. "To celebrate the new life we're about to begin." She opened the box in surprise, and inside was the silver necklace. "It's beautiful, thank you." She smiled as she prepared to put it on. "Wait," I stopped her. "Aren't you going to look at the engraving on the back?" She turned the necklace over, and her face suddenly went pale. "What's wrong? Don't you like it?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "No, I really like it. It's just, I'm a bit moved." She forced a smile, but didn't know how to explain that she couldn't recognize the significance of that date. "See you tomorrow. Get some good rest, and don't forget to wear this necklace." I kissed her forehead and whispered in her ear, "After all, this is your final design." Her body visibly stiffened for a moment, but she kept smiling. "Of course, I cherish it very much. Tomorrow, the truth will come to light." On the day of the exhibition, the place was packed with people. My painting, Eternity, was displayed in the most prominent spot, right next to the last batch of jewelry designs Mary had created before her death. Mary held my arm, flawlessly playing the role of my wife as always. She had even gone out of her way to wear Mary's favorite white dress and the silver necklace I had given her last night. My mother-in-law and Tom were there too. The three of them exchanged glances from time to time, clearly waiting for the perfect moment. Frank appeared as planned, pretending to be extremely interested in Eternity and asking me about the auction details. "The auction will begin promptly at 4 in the afternoon," I replied with a smile. "This painting means a great deal to me, and I hope it finds someone who truly appreciates it." Mary immediately chimed in. "Yes, although it's hard to part with it, this is a necessary decision for our future." I noticed she glanced at Tom, who gave a barely perceptible nod. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the projector in the center of the exhibition hall lit up. This was the special segment I had arranged. Ladies and gentlemen, I stood in front of eternity. Before the auction begins, I'd like to share a little story about this painting. Mary's photo appeared on the projection screen, a group picture from her last birthday party before she passed away. 3 years ago, my wife Mary died in an accident. I created this painting, Eternity, in her memory. The woman in the painting has her back to the viewer, forever gazing into the distance, symbolizing a longing I can never reach. A soft sigh rippled through the crowd. Mary stood beside me, matching my words with a sorrowful expression. However, a month ago, a miracle happened. I turned to look at Mary. My wife came back. The whole room erupted in astonishment, and many people curiously sized up, Mary. This is my wife, Mary. I took her hand and stepped forward. Back from the dead, it's truly the greatest blessing heaven could have given me. She smiled and nodded to everyone, while my mother-in-law and Tom stood by with smug expressions. However, my tone suddenly shifted. Amidst my joy, a question arose. Is she really Mary? The entire room fell silent. Mary's hand trembled slightly in my palm. So, I did some investigating. The projector switched to a set of comparison photos. On the left was the real Mary. On the right was a photo of her. They look exactly the same, don't they? But I clicked the remote, and the photo was enlarged, the details highlighted. The position of the piercing on the left ear was slightly different, the arch of the eyebrows subtly varied, and the fine lines at the corners of the eyes ran in different directions. These are details that even professional plastic surgery cannot fully replicate. Mary tried to pull her hand away, but I held on tightly. My mother-in-law and Tom also began to grow anxious, glancing toward the exit. More importantly, the real Mary has a feature that cannot be copied. I turned to Mary. The necklace I gave you last night has a date engraved on the back. Can you tell everyone what that date is? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the due date of our first child, the one we lost. I spoke softly, my voice trembling with emotion. Mary designed this necklace to commemorate the baby we never got to meet. The date was our secret, only Mary and I knew. The room fell utterly silent. Mary turned deathly pale, my mother-in-law's eyes widened, and Tom had already started edging toward the door. What surprised me even more, I continued, was that the real Mary could never get pregnant due to an underdeveloped uterus. Yet this, Mary claims she's already 2 months along. I let go of her hand and took a step back. So, who are you really? A flicker of despair flashed in Mary's eyes, but she quickly regained her composure. I am Mary, it's just that old Chinese doctor. The non-existent old Chinese doctor, right? I sneered. Just like the non-existent amnesia, the non-existent miraculous recovery. I turned toward the projection screen. Let's see the truth. The screen played the secretly recorded video of her conversation with Tom, their discussion on how to swindle eternity, clearly audible. This isn't. She tried to explain, but my mother-in-law had already rushed forward. Who are you really? My mother-in-law screamed. You're not my daughter? Auntie, stop pretending, I said calmly. You know she's not Mary. You just wanted to get back at me, didn't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale. I didn't know she was going to impersonate Mary. Tom just said he needed help to scam some money. Police. Don't move. Several plainclothes officers emerged from the crowd, blocking Tom as he tried to escape. Amid the chaos, Mary took the opportunity to shove me aside and run toward the exit. I chased after her and caught up in the parking lot. Tell me, who are you really? She finally stopped, turned to face me, tears welling in her eyes. My name is Luna. I'm an actress. Tom found me and said if I helped trick you out of a painting, he'd give me $1 million. I needed the money for my sister's medical treatment. Why did they choose me? Why Mary? She shook her head. I don't know. They gave me a lot of information, photos, videos, even your chat logs. I was just following the script. The police arrived and took her away. I stood where I was, gazing at the distant sky, my heart a tumult of emotions. Back in the exhibition hall, the crowd had already dispersed, leaving only Frank and a few police officers. It's all been cleared up, Frank walked over. Tom owed money to loan sharks and was desperate. Your mother-in-law always resented you for not saving Mary, so she helped them plan the whole thing. I walked up to eternity, gently caressing the back of the woman in the painting. Mary, I can finally give you an answer. The police left with the evidence. Frank patted me on the shoulder. What do you plan to do next? I took a deep breath. Prepare for the final painting. What will it be called? The Pursuit, I said softly. This time, I'll paint her face, not just her back. After the case was solved, my life seemed to return to where it was 3 years ago. Eternity was temporarily held by the court as crucial evidence. Tom and Luna were arrested for fraud, and my mother-in-law was investigated as an accomplice. The prosecution wants you to testify in court, the officer called to inform me. The trial is scheduled for early next month. I agreed, though I was utterly exhausted inside. After exposing the deception, I thought I would feel the thrill of revenge, but what I felt instead was a profound emptiness. Those days spent with Mary that month had allowed me to feel a trace of warmth in life again, even if that warmth was born of lies. Frank often came to see me, worried I might fall into despair once more. I told him not to worry, that I was working on a new piece, The Pursuit. Are you really going to paint Mary's face from the front? Frank asked curiously. For the past 3 years, you've always refused to do that. It's time, I replied. We can't live in the past forever. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Mary and returned to the old house in the suburbs, the place where the real Mary and I had first made our home. The dust-laden memories in the house brought me both pain and comfort. Mary's studio remained just as she had left it, design sketches scattered across the table, unfinished jewelry drafts pinned to the drawing board. One afternoon, while sorting through Mary's belongings, I discovered an encrypted external hard drive. After several attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding anniversary as the password. Inside were backups of Mary's design works, along with some personal photos and videos. One folder in particular caught my attention. Inside a folder named Plan was a series of jewelry design sketches, labeled George's Birthday Special Project. It was then I remembered that, in the months before Mary passed away, she often spoke mysteriously about giving me an unparalleled birthday surprise. Leafing through these design drafts, I couldn't help but be moved to tears. Mary had planned to design a jewelry collection inspired by my paintings over the years, with each piece corresponding to a representative work from my artistic career. The last page was a sketch of a ring, with a dark red stone set in the center, its edges adorned with tiny diamonds, closely resembling the sunrise in my early work, Dawn. This is blood amber? I examined the notes carefully, confirming the name of this rare gemstone. Mary's designs had always been bold, but blood amber is extremely rare in the Chinese market, almost impossible to acquire. How did she obtain such a material? As I continued searching, I found a series of email correspondence screenshots. Mary had actually contacted a gemstone dealer in Myanmar, commissioning the blood amber specifically for this ring. The last email showed that the gem had already been shipped, but the date was exactly 1 week before Mary's death. I immediately called Frank. Help me check if there was a package sent from Myanmar 3 years ago, addressed to Mary. 2 days later, Frank brought news. The package did exist, but since no one signed for it, it was returned. However, according to the shipping records, it was resent a month ago, this time addressed to you. What? I was completely confused. I haven't received any package. Check your old apartment? Frank suggested. Back at my old apartment, the manager told me there was indeed a package, but it had been signed for by Mary. She said it was a surprise for you, so she didn't notify you, the manager explained. This meant Luna had taken the blood amber. I rushed to the detention center and requested to see Luna. Separated by glass, she looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but still wore that face so similar to Mary's. What are you doing here? She asked coldly. A month ago, you signed for a package from Myanmar. There was a blood amber inside. I want to know where it is. She looked surprised. How did you know? Tom asked me to sign for it. He said it was some precious gem. He took it. My heart sank. Tom was deep in gambling debt. A precious blood amber would be a windfall for him. He had probably sold it long ago. That blood amber is very important to me, I said softly. It was the last gift my wife left me. Luna was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, maybe it's not that bad. Tom said the stone has flaws, its value is greatly reduced, and he hasn't found a suitable buyer yet. Hope was rekindled. If Tom hadn't sold the blood amber yet, maybe there was still a chance to get it back. Do you know where he might hide it? Luna hesitated for a moment. He has a safe deposit box in a self-storage facility on the east side of the city. After getting the address, I immediately contacted the officer in charge of the case and explained the situation. Since Tom was involved in a large sum of money, the police quickly approved the search request. "Mr. George, we've found the safe deposit box," the officer said over the phone. "Inside, we did find the blood amber you described, as well as some other evidence." A few hours later, I retrieved the blood amber at the police station. It was even more beautiful than I had imagined. Within the dark red core, wisps of mist seemed to swirl, shifting strangely under the light. This was the birthday gift Mary had so carefully chosen for me, waiting for 3 years. Back home, I carefully placed the blood amber beside the canvas of the pursuit. The painting was already more than half finished, Mary's face emerging from the blur into clarity, yet it still felt like something was missing. Watching the blood amber glimmer faintly under the light, I suddenly understood how I should complete the painting. The creation of the pursuit entered its final stage. I decided to break convention and incorporate the blood amber into the artwork. This would not only be a portrait, but a hybrid piece that fused painting with the art of jewelry. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Frank frowned. "That blood amber is priceless." "That's exactly why," I said firmly. "Mary chose it for me. She wanted to inspire an unparalleled masterpiece. I will fulfill her wish." For 2 whole weeks, I worked day and night, neglecting sleep and food. I cut the blood amber into thin slices and inlaid them at the spot of Mary's eyes on the canvas, making her gaze truly come alive. I used a special technique to blend the surrounding paint, creating a harmonious transition with the gemstone. From certain angles, the entire painting seemed to be imbued with life, and Mary's expression would shift depending on where the viewer stood. On the day I finished the piece, Frank brought news. Luna had been sentenced to 3 years in prison, but due to her good attitude in confessing, she might serve only a year and a half. Tom, involved in multiple fraud cases, was sentenced to 7 years. My mother-in-law, as an accomplice, received a suspended sentence. "The case is finally over," Frank said. "Are you planning to exhibit your painting?" "Yes. Next month there will be a solo exhibition at the National Art Museum, and The Pursuit will be the grand finale." The curator couldn't stop praising this piece, believing it represents the innovative direction of contemporary art and marks the pinnacle of my career. Indeed, this painting, which incorporates Mary's jewelry design concepts, is in some sense a creation we made together. On the eve of the exhibition, I checked the arrangement in the gallery alone one last time, making sure every piece was perfectly lit and positioned. When I reached The Pursuit, I couldn't help but stop and gaze at it. Mary's face was vividly lifelike, her eyes inlaid with blood amber gleaming under the spotlight, as if she were smiling at me. For the first time in 3 years, I faced her directly, no longer painting only her back. "Mr. George," a stranger's voice called from behind. "Sorry to disturb you, but the gallery has been cleared." He turned around to see a young woman dressed in the museum's staff uniform. "And you are?" "I'm the new curator, responsible for security in your exhibition area," she explained with a smile. "I really like your work, especially this piece, The Pursuit." "Thank you." I nodded. "I'll be leaving soon." She didn't leave, but continued to gaze at the painting. "That red gem is beautiful, almost as if it's alive." "It's blood amber," I explained, "a very rare gemstone." "I know," she said softly, "top-grade blood amber from Myanmar, containing plant fossils, extremely rare." I looked at her in surprise. "You know a lot about jewelry?" She smiled. "I study jewelry design. I'm just working part-time here." For some reason, Mary suddenly came to mind. She, too, had an almost obsessive passion for and expertise in gemstones. "If you don't mind me asking, who is the woman in this painting?" she asked. "My wife," I replied. "She passed away 3 years ago. She was a jewelry designer." "I'm very sorry," she said sincerely, then gestured toward the blood amber. "This gem must mean a great deal to you. It was the last birthday gift she chose for me before she died, but I only found it recently." She nodded thoughtfully. "Setting it into her portrait is the best way to remember her." For some reason, talking with this unfamiliar woman brought me a strange sense of calm. Perhaps it was her love for jewelry that reminded me of Mary. "Sorry, I have to continue my rounds." She glanced at her watch. "See you tomorrow, Mr. George." "See you tomorrow," I replied, watching her leave. On the way home, I felt an unusual peace. The completion of The Pursuit seemed to mark the end of my search for Mary as well. not forgetting, but remembering her forever in another way. The next day, the exhibition's opening ceremony attracted numerous figures from the art world and the media. The pursuit undoubtedly became the center of attention, with people marveling at this innovative form of artistic expression. Amid the crowd, I noticed that curator standing aside, watching as well. Sunlight streamed through the skylight of the gallery, falling upon her, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mary's shadow. No, I shook my head, warning myself not to be deceived by mere resemblance. There would never be another Mary in this world, just as there would never be another unique blood amber. After the exhibition, the pursuit was purchased by an anonymous collector for an astronomical price. I donated all the proceeds to a foundation supporting students in jewelry design, establishing a scholarship in Mary's name. Life slowly moved forward, and I began to accept new commissions and create new works. Occasionally, I would think of that curator with a unique insight into jewelry, wondering if she was still working at the art museum. Until one day, I received an email from HL. There were no words, only an image. A sketch of a ring design, the style strikingly similar to Mary's unfinished series. My heart raced as I replied immediately. Who is this? The response came quickly. Yesterday, you brushed past me by the cafe on the street corner, but you didn't recognize me. If you want to know more, wait for me at the museum entrance at noon tomorrow. Is it that librarian? How could she have a design so reminiscent of Mary's style? Filled with anxiety and anticipation, I decided to accept the invitation and find out for myself. The next day at noon, I arrived at the art museum half an hour early. The sun was shining, and small groups of visitors were coming and going from the exhibition hall, but there was no sign of the mysterious person. Just as I began to suspect this might be some kind of prank, a faint trace of perfume drifted by, a scent unfamiliar to me, yet it inexplicably reminded me of Mary. Mr. George, thank you for coming. The voice behind me made me turn around. It was the curator. Today, she wasn't wearing her uniform, but a simple white dress, completely different from Mary's style when she was alive. Did you send the email? I asked directly. She nodded. There are some things I want to tell you, but not here. Will you come with me? We walked through the small park beside the art museum and arrived at a secluded cafe. The whole time, I kept observing her. Her mannerisms, the way she walked, none of it resembled Mary. Yet her sensitivity to detail and her focused attention gave me a strange sense of familiarity. Who are you, really? The moment we sat down, I couldn't wait to ask. My name is Nicole. She looked me straight in the eye. I'm Mary's student. This answer caught me off guard. Mary had indeed taught jewelry design part-time at the Design Academy before she passed away, but she had never mentioned having any particularly close students. I took her advanced design class the year before she passed, Nicole explained. Her guidance benefited me for a lifetime. That still doesn't explain why your designs resemble her style so much, I said, half convinced. Nicole took a folder out of her bag. These are all notes from Ms. Nicole's class and her feedback on my work. You can look at the handwriting and confirm that it's really hers. I carefully examined the materials. It was indeed Mary's handwriting. There were even traces of the pale purple ink she habitually used. Before Ms. Nicole passed away, she was guiding me on my graduation project, Nicole continued. The theme was interwoven light and shadow, blending Eastern and Western aesthetic elements. She gave me a lot of valuable advice, and even showed me a sketch from a private project she was working on at the time. George's special birthday project? I blurted out. Nicole's eyes widened in surprise. You know about it? I only found out recently. I briefly explained the origin of the blood amber. I knew that blood amber would eventually find its way back to you, Nicole said with a smile. Nicole always said it was a destined gift. Is that why you contacted me? Because you saw the blood amber? Nicole was silent for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. Not entirely. After Nicole passed away, I've been trying to carry on the design philosophy she taught me. Some time ago, I happened to see the news about your eternity being stolen, and then I saw someone impersonating Nicole. I thought I should tell you a few things. She took a letter out of her bag. This is the last letter Nicole gave me after class before she passed away. She said if her surprise plan went smoothly, I should show you this letter. If anything went wrong and she was gone, I should still make sure you see it. I took the envelope. It was indeed Mary's handwriting, and it read, "To my dearest husband." The envelope had already been opened. I didn't know what was in the letter at the time. I just kept it as Nicole instructed, Nicole explained. It wasn't until I saw the news that I opened it. I hope you won't blame me. I carefully took out the letter paper and unfolded it to read. Dear George, if you are reading this letter, perhaps my surprise plan has gone awry. Don't worry, it's just that the plan has changed, and the form of the gift may be different now. The blood amber I picked for you is said to be known as the Eye of Rebirth. Legend has it that looking at the world through it reveals truths that are often overlooked. I hope it can become a turning point in your artistic career, leading you to see new possibilities. All these years, your paintings have always depicted backs, as if you're afraid to face something head-on. I hope this gemstone will give you the courage to paint the front, to capture true emotions. No matter what happens, please remember, love does not disappear, it merely changes form, like this blood amber, which, after millions of years, transforms from resin into a gem, yet still shines. Forever loving you, Mary. The handwriting became a bit messy at the end, as if written in a hurry. I stroked the paper, as if I could feel Mary's emotions at that moment. Thank you, I said, my voice choked with emotion. This means a lot to me. You're welcome. I'm just fulfilling Ms. Nicole's request, Nicole said with a smile. Actually, there's one more thing I'd like to ask your help with. What is it? I'd like to apply for the Mary Scholarship you established, she said, taking a design portfolio out of her bag. This is my graduation project, combining Ms. Nicole's ideas with my own innovations. As I flipped through the portfolio, I was surprised to find that while these designs bore traces of Mary's influence, they also possessed a unique style and innovative touches. In particular, a series called Metamorphosis cleverly combined jewelry with transformable elements, allowing the pieces to change form according to the wearer's mood and occasion. This is outstanding, I praised sincerely. Mary would be proud of you. A hint of joy flashed in Nicole's eyes. Really? I've always worried I couldn't live up to her expectations. You've already moved beyond the learning stage and developed your own style. That's exactly what she hoped to see. As we talked, sunlight streamed through the window and fell on Nicole. In that moment, I seemed to understand something. When Mary spoke of love changing its form, perhaps she wasn't just referring to the blood amber, but also to her passion for art and its legacy. Luna tried to impersonate Mary by mimicking her appearance, but she could never truly replicate who she was. Nicole, on the other hand, looked nothing like Mary, yet she inherited a part of her artistic vision and spirit. Perhaps this is the true gift Mary left me, not the blood amber, but a new possibility, a path out of the past. Nicole's graduation exhibition was held in a small gallery. Though the space was modest, it was exquisitely arranged. Her works were divided into 3 series, representing the past, the present, and the future, forming a complete narrative. This is a brilliant idea, I sincerely praised. From tradition to contemporary and then to the future, it showcases the evolution and possibilities of jewelry design. Nicole smiled and nodded. This was inspired by teacher Nicole. She always says that good design should look back at history, be grounded in the present, and look forward to the future. As I walked through the exhibition hall, I noticed a special display case in the corner, containing only one piece, a seemingly simple ring with a small red gemstone set in the center. This is. I leaned in to read the label, which said, in memory, dedicated to teacher Mary. Yes, I made it from a small piece of blood amber I bought with my own savings, Nicole explained. It can't compare to the quality of yours, but it's also from Myanmar. I examined the design of the ring closely. Clean, powerful lines, with fine silver threads encircling the blood amber, as if protecting the central gem, yet also seeming to radiate light outward. This is very similar to Mary's final design style, I said softly, but it also has your own unique touch. I wanted to create a piece that could both commemorate teacher Nicole and showcase my own style, Nicole explained. The blood amber represents her influence, while the outer design is the direction of my own development. The exhibition attracted quite a few industry insiders, including some well-known figures from the jewelry design world. After viewing the exhibition, an older female designer approached Nicole and offered her an internship opportunity. I stood by, genuinely happy for Nicole. In the evening, as the exhibition was drawing to a close, Frank arrived as well. Seeing me with Nicole, he gave me a knowing smile. New friend? He asked me quietly. Mary's student, I explained simply. Very talented. Frank nodded without asking further questions. After touring the exhibition, he gave high praise to Nicole's work. It blends traditional and modern elements, demonstrating both technical skill and artistic expression, quite rare. Nicole thanked him politely. This wouldn't have been possible without the guidance of teacher Nicole and teacher George. After the exhibition, the three of us went to a nearby restaurant for dinner. During the meal, Frank talked about recent trends in the art market, while Nicole shared her insights on contemporary jewelry design. The conversation was light and pleasant, and I realized it had been a long time since I had relaxed and chatted with others like this. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank received an urgent call and left early. Only Nicole and I remained in the restaurant, and the atmosphere suddenly became a bit quiet. Mr. George, Nicole hesitated for a moment before speaking. I've always had a question I wanted to ask you. What is it? After you finished The Pursuit, what are you planning to create next? The question caught me off guard. To be honest, ever since The Pursuit, I haven't had any new inspiration. That painting seemed to have drained all my emotions and creativity. I haven't decided yet, I answered honestly. It might take some time to find a new direction. Nicole nodded thoughtfully. Nicole once said that the hardest thing for an artist isn't creating a stunning masterpiece, but finding a way forward after reaching the peak. She really did say that, I recalled with a smile. Mary always saw further than I did. Maybe, Nicole said softly, you could try a new direction that combines your work with jewelry design? Like in The Pursuit, but taking it even further. I recalled what Mary mentioned in her letter about seeing new possibilities, and suddenly I was inspired. You mean, creating a series of works that combine painting and jewelry? Exactly. Nicole said excitedly, your paintings create emotion in two-dimensional space, while jewelry gives it tangible form in the three-dimensional world. The combination of the two would have an astonishing effect. The more we talked, the more engaged we became, even sketching a few concept designs on the restaurant's napkins. Nicole's ideas were fresh and bold, perfectly aligning with my artistic vision, yet bringing a new perspective. As we left the restaurant, Nicole suddenly said, I have to confess something. I looked at her in confusion. I reached out to you not only to deliver Nicole's letter, but also for a personal reason. I hope to learn from you, she said candidly. I want to become a designer like Nicole, someone who not only creates beautiful works but also perfectly blends art with emotion. Her sincerity moved me. You're already on that path, and you're doing very well. Then, may I consult you often? She asked a little nervously. Of course, I'd be delighted. On the way home, a series of new works already began to take shape in my mind. A cross-disciplinary art that fuses painting and jewelry, both as a tribute to Mary and as a new starting point in my artistic career. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, Mary stood in a halo of blood-red light, smiling at me and saying, See, I knew you would find a new direction. When I woke up, I got out of bed immediately and began sketching for the new series. I decided to name it Rebirth. Not only representing the ancient life forever preserved in blood amber, but also symbolizing the rebirth of my artistic career, as well as the inheritance and development of Mary's artistic vision. A week later, I submitted a new series proposal to the gallery and received an enthusiastic response. The curator even suggested holding a special exhibition themed Between Dimensions, a dialogue between painting and jewelry. For this project, I invited Nicole to join the team as a jewelry design consultant. She had just graduated from design school and was both excited and nervous about the opportunity. Am I really up to the task? She asked me in the studio. You understand Mary's design philosophy better than anyone, I assured her. That's exactly what I need. In the days that followed, we worked at a feverish pace. We created during the day and discussed at night, sometimes even working through until dawn. Nicole's ideas flowed endlessly, and I transformed those thoughts into concrete artistic expressions. In the process, I rediscovered the pure joy of creation that I hadn't felt in a long time. One late night, when we finally finished the design for our first piece, Nicole clapped her hands excitedly. This is amazing. Teacher Nicole will definitely love it. At the mention of Mary, she suddenly realized her slip and looked at me nervously. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's all right, I said with a smile. I think Mary really would like it. She always hoped I could step out of my comfort zone and try new ways of expressing myself. Nicole let out a sigh of relief, then hesitantly asked, Professor George, may I ask you a personal question? What is it? When you faced the woman impersonating Professor Nicole, How? How did you see through her? I mean, from the news reports, she seemed like an exact copy of Professor Nicole. I pondered for a moment. Superficial resemblance is easy to achieve, but a true personality cannot be duplicated. Mary's perception of art, her attitude toward life, the way she handled details, these were all unique. Just like a work of art, Nicole mused, no matter how perfect a replica is, it can never capture the soul of the original. Exactly. We worked through the night again, and finally established the overall framework for the Rebirth series. 7 pieces, each blending elements of painting and jewelry, together telling a story of loss and recovery, death and rebirth. As our collaboration deepened, my relationship with Nicole gradually shifted from teacher and student to partners, both mentor and friend. Sometimes, when the light traced the gentle contours of her focused profile, I would unconsciously think of Mary. But soon, I realized that this association wasn't due to any physical resemblance, but rather that same dedication and passion for art. "George, you look much more spirited lately," Frank remarked at a gathering. "It's been a while since I've seen you so full of life." "Yeah, the new project has helped me rediscover the joy of creating." "Nicole's a good girl," Frank said meaningfully. "Talented, and she really understands you." I understood his implication, but just smiled without responding. There was indeed a special understanding between Nicole and me, but it was more rooted in our shared passion for art than anything else. At least for now. The creation of the Rebirth series took 3 months, longer than expected, but the results were stunning. Each piece was a perfect fusion of painting and jewelry art, offering both the pleasure of viewing as a flat image and the discovery of 3-dimensional effects brought by the jewelry elements from different angles. A week before the exhibition opened, I received an unexpected visitor, Luna. She had served her sentence and was released early. She looked much more haggard than the last time we met, but her eyes were clearer. "I came to apologize to you in person." She stood at the studio door, her voice low, "for everything I have done." I didn't respond immediately, but simply invited her in to sit down. "I know that an apology can't make up for the loss," she continued, "but I want you to know that I truly regret it." "How is your sister's illness?" I asked. She looked up in surprise. You know. I guessed. "You said you needed money for a reason, and I think that must have been true." "Yes," she nodded. "My sister's surgery was a success, and now she's fully recovered. For the past 3 years, I've been thinking about how to make up for my mistakes, even though I may never be able to." I was silent for a moment, then said, "You know, in a way, your appearance actually helped me." "What do you mean?" "It forced me to confront the past, to re-examine my memories with Mary, and ultimately to find a way forward." I pointed to the sketches of the Rebirth series on the wall and briefly explained this new project. Luna listened quietly, a look of genuine respect in her eyes. "I'm glad you were able to find a new beginning from that nightmare," she said at last. "I hope I can find my own path to rebirth as well." As she left, she handed me a small package. "These are some simple pieces of jewelry I made in prison. The craftsmanship is rough, but each one represents my remorse and blessings. I hope you can accept them." Opening the package, I found several small trinkets handmade from fine wire and colorful glass beads. Though simple, it was clear the creator had poured their heart into them. Nicole happened to come into the studio at that moment. Seeing the trinkets, she asked curiously, "What are these?" I told her about Luna's visit. "You forgave her?" Nicole was a bit surprised. "Not exactly forgiveness," I said thoughtfully. "It's more like understanding. Everyone has their own hardships and choices. What's important is how we learn and grow from our mistakes." Nicole nodded pensively, picking up a piece of jewelry to examine it closely. "The craftsmanship is rough, but the concept is ingenious. This person seems to have a talent for design." "Perhaps," I said. "Everyone has the possibility of being reborn." On the day of the exhibition opening, numerous figures from the art and jewelry worlds gathered together. The Rebirth series received unprecedented acclaim. Critics called it a model of cross-disciplinary art, and the gallery owner was overjoyed, announcing plans for a nationwide tour. In the crowd, I saw Luna. She was dressed simply, standing quietly in a corner, admiring the exhibits. Our eyes met in the air. She nodded slightly, then walked away. "Who was that?" Nicole asked, standing beside me. "Someone searching for rebirth," I replied. Nicole seemed to understand and asked no more. We stood side by side before the pursuit, watching the blood amber refract a strange light under the lamps, like the silent burning of life's flame. "Thank you," I whispered to Nicole. "Without you, this series might never have come into being. It was your philosophy that guided us, Teacher Nicole," she replied modestly. I was just fortunate enough to be the messenger. In that moment, I suddenly understood the true meaning of what Mary had written in her letter. Love has changed its form. Love exists not only in memory and longing, but also in inheritance and innovation, shining brightly in every spark of artistic creation. And I, at last, had learned how to begin anew after loss, to embrace rebirth while still searching. The success of the exhibition exceeded everyone's expectations. In just 1 month, the Rebirth series was reported on by major media outlets and even attracted the attention of the international art world. A renowned auction house extended an olive branch to me, hoping to include several pieces in their annual highlight auction. "This is an unprecedented opportunity," Frank said excitedly. "If the deal goes through, you'll become a top player in the contemporary art market." I wasn't particularly concerned with commercial success, but I did feel the joy of having my work widely recognized. More importantly, this series opened up a new artistic path for me, freeing me from the creative shackles of the past 3 years. Nicole benefited as well. As the project's jewelry design consultant, she received high praise from the industry. Several well-known jewelry brands reached out to her, hoping she would join their design teams. "Which offer are you planning to accept?" One night, as we were tidying up the studio together, I asked her. "To be honest, I'm still hesitating." Nicole paused her work. "These are all great opportunities, but what? But I want to keep working with you." She looked straight into my eyes. "Rebirth is just the beginning, isn't it?" Her candor surprised me a little. Indeed, the success of this series had opened up many new creative possibilities for us, but I wasn't sure if I should continue such a close working relationship. "You should consider your own career development," I said tactfully. "These opportunities are very rare for young designers." Nicole seemed to sense my hesitation and nodded gently. "I understand." In the days that followed, we were both busy and rarely had the chance to talk alone. A week later, Nicole told me she had decided to accept an invitation from a French jewelry brand and would be going to Paris to work for 2 years. "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "It's a very good choice." "Thank you," she replied with a smile, though a fleeting, elusive emotion flashed in her eyes. "I think this is the best arrangement for both of us." Before Nicole left, we held a small farewell party. Frank, the curator, and a few mutual friends came. The atmosphere was warm, tinged with a hint of sadness. After a few rounds of drinks, Frank found an opportunity to pull me aside. "Are you really going to just let her go like this?" "What do you mean?" I pretended not to understand. "Don't play dumb, man," Frank said bluntly. "You have feelings for her. That's obvious." "That's just professional rapport," I argued. "Is that so?" Frank looked at me meaningfully. "Then why have you been so distracted ever since she decided to go to France?" I was at a loss for words. In fact, these past few days I had indeed felt an inexplicable sense of loss, but I kept telling myself it was only because I had lost an excellent partner. "I know what you're worried about," Frank lowered his voice. "You feel like you're letting Mary down, don't you?" I remained silent. He had touched upon the deepest concern in my heart. "Mary has been gone for 3 years now." Frank gently patted my shoulder. "She would want you to be happy." After the party ended, I walked Nicole home. The night was tranquil as water, and the city lights flowed around us. "Thank you for your help and guidance these past few months." Nicole stopped at the entrance of her apartment building. "This experience has meant so much to me." "I should be thanking you," I said sincerely. "Without you, the Rebirth series would never have been completed." We fell into silence, as if both searching for the right words to say goodbye. "My flight is the morning after tomorrow," Nicole finally said. "I still have some things to take care of tomorrow. So, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. 2 years will pass quickly." I tried to make my voice sound light. "Paris is a beautiful city. You'll like it there." She nodded, a complex emotion flickering in her eyes. "Professor George, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but never found the right opportunity." "What is it?" "I chose to study jewelry design because I saw Nicole's works." She took a deep breath, or more precisely, because I saw the pieces Nicole designed for you. The way she perfectly fused love and art moved me deeply. I didn't know that, I said in surprise. I've always hoped that one day I could be like Nicole, creating art filled with emotion. Nicole continued, her words coming faster, as if afraid she might lose her courage. But now I realize that what I want even more is to create for a specific person, just like Nicole created for you. I understood her implication, and my heart suddenly began to race. Nicole, please don't respond, she gently interrupted me. I just wanted you to know before I leave. No matter how you feel right now, remember that starting over is not a betrayal of the past, but a way of cherishing life. With that, she rose up on her tiptoes and softly kissed my cheek, then quickly turned and walked into the apartment building, leaving me standing alone in the night, my mind in turmoil. After returning home, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep, replaying Nicole's words and that gentle kiss over and over in my mind. Suddenly, I remembered a small box in the study, where Mary's last complete letter was kept, a letter I had found while sorting through her belongings. But at the time, overwhelmed by grief, I never had the courage to open. Now, I finally mustered the courage to walk into the study and retrieve that delicate little box from the depths of the drawer. Inside lay a pale pink letter, bearing Mary's familiar handwriting. Dearest George, by the time you read this letter, you may find yourself at a crossroads in life, hesitating between moving forward or staying where you are. My greatest wish is that you can move bravely through life, as freely as your brush glides across the canvas. Love is not a shackle, but a liberation. Memory is not a burden, but a source of strength. If one day you meet someone who can rekindle the light in your eyes, please don't hesitate because of your longing for me. True love is wishing happiness for the other, even if there is no longer a place for oneself in that happiness. Remember, the days we loved each other were complete, with no need for regrets. And now, it's time to paint a new picture, my beloved. Forever loving you. Mary. Tears blurred my vision. It was as if Mary had foreseen my current situation and had already given me her blessing. She was always like this, always able to see further and more clearly than I could. At that moment, I made up my mind. Early the next morning, I drove straight to Nicole's apartment. Professor George? Nicole opened the door in surprise, clearly not expecting me. I have something to say to you. I looked her straight in the eyes, not as your teacher, but as George. I handed her Mary's letter. Nicole read it carefully, her expression shifting from surprise to being moved, and finally, her eyes grew moist. She truly was an extraordinary woman, Nicole said softly, handing the letter back to me. Yes, she was, I nodded. That's exactly why I believe her words. Nicole, cancel your plans for Paris. Stay and continue our collaboration, will you? Nicole looked at me in shock. Are you serious? I've never been more serious, I said quietly. Rebirth is not just the name of an artwork, it's a possibility in life. Are you willing to explore that possibility with me? Her answer was a firm embrace, warm and real, like the first ray of sunlight after a long winter. In that moment, I felt as if Mary was somewhere, smiling down on us, blessing this new beginning. Life is like that blood amber, enduring countless ages of change and sedimentation, ultimately transforming into an eternal radiance. And I, at last, understood what true pursuit is, what true rebirth means. A year later, Nicole and I unveiled our second joint project, Interwoven, at the National Art Museum. This series was even bolder and more innovative than Rebirth, blending Eastern and Western aesthetics with various art forms. Critics hailed it as a significant breakthrough in contemporary art. At the opening ceremony, Nicole held my arm as we faced the media interviews and congratulations from the audience together. She wore a simple white dress, and around her neck was the Eye of Rebirth necklace we designed together. She completed the jewelry part based on my painting. Your collaboration seems even more in sync than your last project, a reporter asked with a suggestive smile. Nicole glanced at me, and we exchanged a smile. Yes, both in art and in life, we found the perfect balance. This indirect answer drew a round of good-natured laughter from the reporters present. My relationship with Nicole was no longer a secret, but we always kept a low profile, letting the public's attention remain focused on our artistic creations. After the exhibition, we drove out to a small hill in the countryside. There stood an ancient oak tree, beneath which Mary's ashes were laid to rest. This was the place we chose, rather than a traditional cemetery, natural, peaceful, just like Mary herself. Mary, the exhibition was a great success today, I said softly to the stone beneath the tree. Nicole's designs were admired by everyone. just as you once predicted. Nicole crouched down and placed a bouquet of white daisies in front of the stone. Teacher Nicole, I've been working hard to become the kind of designer you hoped I would be. I hope you can be proud of me. A gentle breeze stirred, and the oak's leaves rustled softly, as if it were Mary's reply. On the way back, Nicole suddenly said, I've been thinking about something. What is it? If that woman who pretended to be Ms. Nicole hadn't appeared, you might never have found the blood amber, never created the pursuit, and we might never have met. Her words made me fall into deep thought. Indeed, it was the series of events triggered by that deception that ultimately led to everything now. It feels as if, in the unseen, some force has been orchestrating it all. Perhaps that's the irony of fate, I said softly. Sometimes, the worst beginnings can lead us to the best endings. When I returned home, I received an unexpected package. Upon opening it, I found a delicate little box containing a handmade ring. Though simple, the craftsmanship had improved greatly compared to the pieces I had seen before. There was a note attached. Mr. George, thank you for your kindness and understanding a year ago, which gave me the courage to start over. Now I have found a job at a small jewelry shop, and my life is gradually getting back on track. This ring represents my gratitude, and I wish you happiness and well-being on your new path. Luna, I handed the ring to Nicole. After examining it carefully, she remarked, her skills have improved a lot. She truly is talent. Some mistakes in life shouldn't become permanent scars, I sighed. Everyone deserves a second chance. That night, we sat in the studio, discussing ideas for the next series. Nicole suddenly proposed a bold idea. I was thinking, maybe we could try connecting the different stages of our work to create a complete narrative. From eternity to quest, then to rebirth, and intertwined, they're actually different phases in a person's life journey. You mean? A complete story about loss, searching, rebirth, and integration, she explained excitedly, ultimately asking what is the most precious treasure in life. Love. I finished her sentence. No matter what form it takes. Nicole nodded, her eyes sparkling with creative fire. We could call it the forms of love, an unprecedented artistic exploration. Sounds like a long-term, ambitious project. We have time, she smiled, holding my hand. We have so much time. In that moment, I felt a powerful surge of creative inspiration, just like when I first began my artistic career years ago, filled with passion and possibility. But this time, I was not facing the blank canvas alone. 2 years later, the Forms of Love series was exhibited simultaneously in the world's 5 greatest art museums, causing an unprecedented sensation. Critics called it a milestone in contemporary art history, blending painting, sculpture, jewelry design, and other art forms to create an entirely new artistic language. The final piece of the exhibition was titled Eternal Ring, a massive circular canvas depicting every form of love in life, familial, platonic, romantic, and the love for art itself. The edge of the canvas was inlaid with gemstones of various sizes, and under certain lighting, these gems would cast light onto specific parts of the canvas, revealing another hidden layer of patterns. The centerpiece of this work is a massive blood amber. Through intricate optical design, the light it projects perfectly outlines 2 embracing figures. One is Mary, the other is Nicole, symbolizing the intersection of past and present, the fusion of memory and rebirth. On the closing day of the exhibition, in front of the Eternal Ring, I knelt on one knee and proposed to Nicole. The ring was crafted from the very blood amber Mary had once prepared for me, designed by my own hand and fashioned by the finest jeweler. This ring carries the memories of the past and the hopes for the future, I whispered softly. Nicole, will you be the eternal ring in my life? Her tears sparkled under the spotlight. I will. Amidst the cheers, I remembered what Mary once said. Love does not disappear. It merely changes its form. Yes, love does not disappear. It exists in memories, in art, in every rebirth and new beginning. It traverses time and crosses space, like that blood amber which, after millions of years, still shines, forever retaining the original warmth and brilliance of life. This is the answer I have been searching for all along. Between loss and gain, between seeking and rebirth, love remains constant, only appearing in different forms along the journey of life. And all we need to do is bravely accept this gift, no matter how it comes to us. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a clear, washed blue. Beneath the ancient oak tree that had watched over Mary, we exchanged our vows. A gentle breeze stirred, making the leaves whisper as if blessings were drifting in from another world. No matter when or where, Nicole said softly, we'll always remember that it was she who brought us together. Yes, I squeezed her hand, and we will always cherish this gift. In the brilliant sunlight, the blood amber ring gleamed, radiant as life itself, enduring the passage of time, yet still shining bright.